Man, what a week. Did you guys know about the new Sodom and Gomorrah? This is MG42 Pillbox, if I can remember my name correctly. And you are listening to Blood Always Finds Its Level. Special shout outs today, of course, to the Red October crew, Victoria the Sergeant herself, Mark Bailey, Cheyenne Cat, who's on leave for now, Gordzilla, John Gischala, which might be making a special appearance today, Shanna Hania, Wayne Wreck, Full Armor, Wendy Blank, John List Jesus, Tori, Foxtrot Echo Hotel, Max Attack, also known as Maximum Destruction, Franco Stagno, Journey's Wake, Mark Wasson, Coffee House, 26 Vino, Truth Freeze, Outer Passion. There's where my cat ate the rest of that paper, so I don't see what names are down there. I think it's Wint James, Billy Sunday. There's that Farley gentleman there, Molly Malone, April Saved 09, Moo Maple Milk, as I can pronounce that name finally, Wambra, Rose Pat, and Rand Campbell, of course. And a shout out to my father, we'll call him Father Pillbox. Happy birthday, Dad. March 12th, 1945, a day which will live in infamy. Right now it is 6:40 west of the Rockies, south of the 33rd parallel. Again, happy birthday to my dad. What a beautiful day it is. Man. Oh, what? Set 1 SQ. DEFCON 4, Red October crew. Man, another wake-up call, of course. Why wouldn't it be? As usual, the cesspool of the world has reared its head again. Welcome to the end of the internet. Why are so many Christians so deathly afraid of the Bible? The evil of this world tried to bury its sickness and disease. And all it ended up doing was planting the seeds of their demise. Make no mistake about it, this is Sodom and Gomorrah. You are in the cesspool of the flat plane of existence, mind you. My dear Lord, I've never seen so many stupid, incompetent people in my life. We are in strange days, Christians, desperate times. Things have never been worse. And that's why God has called you. This is not a drill, Christians. It's time to wake up and smell the ashes. There's only one truth, one way, one life, and nobody gets to the Father but through Him. Round 2, baby. Fight. Man. Wow, what a better time to be alive, Christians. And you're so deathly afraid, some of you. I just don't get it. You people need to man up. Some of you ladies need to woman up. Put on your big boy pants. Please tie your shoelaces. Not together again. Fall over yourself, please, ladies and gentlemen. It's time to wake up. Welcome to the end of the internet. Man. Mark 8:38. Whosoever therefore shall be ashamed of me and of my words in this adulterous and sinful generation, of him shall the Son of Man be ashamed when he cometh in the glory of his Father with the holy angels. Did you think it was supposed to be easy? Is that how you got here? Some of you have a hard time listening to an intro this long. Wow, look at that. 644 west of the Rockies. Welcome to the end of the internet, ladies and gentlemen. This is MG42 Pillbox, your host of Blood Always Finds Its Level. Welcome to the Red October, ladies and gentlemen. Man, if it's so difficult just to listen to an intro, you might not be who you claim to be. And here we are. Northwest 69 degrees, made a scorching heat for the captain. a beautiful sunset right now. I'd love to show you, but too many complications in the Red October right now, so we have to have the periscope down. Just the tail end of a sunset right now. Usually we do these things a little bit later, but now the time zone has changed, as of course people know. And I believe as for Paula now, it's 9:45 east of the Rockies, north of the 33rd parallel. So the times have changed, and now daylight savings time is in effect. So we are a little bit earlier than normal. I'm not sure if we'll do this every time, but I want to thank everybody for being here. And here we are at the end of the internet. It turns out that Christians are still scared to death of truth, and instead of accepting it, hide from it. And I don't understand why. And I'm trying to figure this out. I was over at a hangout the other day, and it was, I think, of a gentleman called Michael Roods, Rood. And there were some Christians in the chat. I think they had a few viewers, at least 100 or so. And I, of course, started to converse with these people and address biblical scripture. And they didn't seem to like the name Jesus Christ itself. They said that they're Torah experts and they have this all figured out. And they mentioned the Hebrew a couple times. And I said, oh, great, you guys understand the Hebrew. That's perfect, because I know a Bible scholar that's deciphered the Hebrew and the Greek for herself for many decades. And she's an expert. So, of course, one thing leads to another. And, of course, the deception of the shape of the earth came up. And I think I mentioned a magical spinning ball in outer space and a helix formation. And one of them said, no, we're just on a ball hanging on nothing. And I thought, oh boy, there it is. That means God must be a blob, right? God sits above the earth, so he's a blob all the way around it. Oh, my dear Lord. And of course, they could tell right away, these Christians that, I'm trying to speak of a literal biblical flat plane of existence like God has described many times, Job 38, Job 37. I mean, how many books of Job talk about literally the fact that we are not on a wobbling, spinning rocket ball, especially one that's in a magical vacuum that somehow pressurizes magical water balls. And there they were, of course. They couldn't help themselves. As soon as they figured out those two words that I was behind, flat earth, which, I've been getting away from a little bit, pushing myself away from it because it's so annoying that the flat earth itself, it's such a great deception and so many ignorant people are in it and worshiping themselves. And it's just as the days of Noah or as the days of Lot, I'm not sure. And it's a disgusting cesspool of self-worshiping idiots and antichrist. So, I like to take a step back and away from flat earth. So I go to a Christian hangouts, supposedly, and I know Victoria, the sergeant herself, knows what I'm talking about, when they just can't handle that when somebody challenges their beliefs, but instead of discussing it with me, they have to kick me out. And that's nothing new. And I'm also talking about the G plus community, that I've known and been a part of for many years. Rand Campbell himself, Rose Patton, would know what I'm talking about very well, and many others out there. And eventually maybe I'll send this to them so that they can listen to it. Tommy Hall, one of my favorites. I think if I have to say that, I think my favorite Christian G plus user right now would be Tommy Hall. Not that he agrees with me, but I do like the way that he does things. You wouldn't believe how funny the guy is also. He seems like kind of a geek and kind of like a straight edge preppy, but the guy's got skills, he's got talent, and he's a wonderful dude, a very nice person, kind of soft spoken, not like your buddy Pillbox. And there's some good faces out there, but there's so many obnoxious haters out there too. It's very frustrating. And what I'm talking about, the fact that the Christian community has failed so greatly, so disappointingly. It's been pathetic. It's obnoxious. It's like talking to third graders, and I don't know what to do about it. I don't see an end in sight to the stupidity and tomfoolery, and it just seems like it's all about self-worship also in a different sense. G-Man, someone that I go way back with, would be one of these characters that I understand. Sometimes I go, yeah, he's right, and then I go, what is he doing? And then a little while, I guess, anyways, I'm not going to get into some of the details unless I talk to him. If he was on here, I'd let him defend himself and talk about some of those issues. But, the constant, the dramaticness, the drama, and the constant perpetual thing of arguing about the tedious ridiculousness, and you made fun of me and I'm not going to support you anymore. And it turns out the atheist you can't trust, as if that was a shocker. I'm trying to figure out what the fruit is here and what these people are doing. And how are you doing tonight, Captain?
I'm doing okay considering. I guess that's a good vague answer.
Yes, I know you've had an extremely busy month. Yes.
Yeah. We've had my older son had his tonsils out at the age of 22, so that's not fun. He's in the second stage of the painful recovery. And I have had tennis elbow or something going on. If you hear crinkling in the background, that's because I've got plastic wrapped around my elbow because it makes it heat up. It uses body heat. Try to help it. And other than that, just the usual stuff going on in life, but here we are. So there must be a reason, right?
Yes, and because of your injury, Captain, if you want to go to bed early tonight, I completely understand, and I'll take over and I'll run the ship for a little bit longer. We'll see where we get taken to. Shout out to John Gischala. I don't know if he's here yet. I haven't got a chance to look at the chat yet.
Yeah, he's here.
I think very good. John Gischala, sir, I'm going to have one of my pigeons send you over a key to something really fast, and there's going to be an envelope inside that is going to be a key, and then you push a button on the envelope, and then a briefcase comes out of the envelope. It's going to have some instructions on what to do next, and then we'll see where you end up, and that'll be happening shortly. So let me take a quick look at the chat right fast. 650 west of the Rockies, south of the 33rd parallel. Do you know who was born south of the 33rd parallel? Knowledge Scavenger?
Let's see. Well, let's see. That's the same parallel as Israel, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Who can I think? I'm sure more than one person, but I'm guessing Jesus was probably born around that parallel.
Yeah, he was, and that's the amazing coincidence, because I didn't know until after I had already been saying it for the past 3 months, and I literally found this out 2 weeks ago, and again, blood always finds its level. The things just, the more I learn, the more I realize I don't know, then the more God shows me that I'm on the right track. And what a beautiful thing it is. John Gischala in the building, sir. I see you right there. Wayne Reck, Coffee House, sir. That's the name my cat bit off. Coffee House was bitten off my list by my 9-month-old cat that supposedly is in heat. And that's why I didn't shout out your name, sir. There you are. John loves Jesus. Wow, look at you guys. God bless. Shana Hania in the building. Where have you been? Look at her. I'm sorry I can't stay. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, she's leaving already. Okay, that she just enters the party and leaves. Very good. I appreciate that. At least you stopped by, Shanna. Thank you very much. All right. Yes, it is my father's birthday. I believe he would have turned 73 today. I don't want to trust the math. Yes, March 12th, 1945. My father, they tried to kill him too. One of those things, they tried to stop the future. And what they ended up doing was causing the future to happen. So let's do that real quick. I'm going to go back into my side chat. And other than that, Paula, how have you been lately?
Oh, pretty good. I can't think of anything to really complain about other than the usual, that we were talking about when you first opened the show here is how, I don't know, depressing it is in Christendom these days, at least, especially on YouTube. But it's really nothing new. It's just that we had hoped things might improve, that they don't seem to do that. They change, but they don't improve. And the issue is still, always has been, will be, Christians who don't respect the Bible, and because they don't respect it, they don't know it, or they have to reinterpret it, or they have to do something to make it say something it doesn't say and mean something it doesn't mean. And heaven help anybody who is also a Christian but has a difference on a secondary matter, because you're going to get the banned, like you said. You'll have the door slammed in your face as if you're bringing some false religion to them. And it's just been weighing on me lately, I guess, that it's just so depressing and disillusioning that so many, you see 500,000 subscribers on some of these channels that have dubious teaching at best. We got, what I call people, don't anybody in chat get mad at me, I call sometimes the idolized version of the Bible, where, if you don't read that one, you're just the devil, or you believe that you can't lose your salvation, then you're the devil, or if you believe that we're under the laws of Moses, you're the devil. And so, if you don't believe we're under it, So same old stuff. And then we've got people hanging around with those who disparage the faith and Jesus and the Bible and anyone who doesn't behave according to their interpretation, which is allegorical and can change from one minute to the next. And so, yeah, we're the fundamentalist Bible thumpers, and even the Christians won't have us for the most part. I mean, it's
right, and that's
nothing new.
yeah. It's terrible. It just shows that the path is so narrow. It really turns out that there's a reason why the Bible says these things about Jesus saying, "I never knew you," or the fact that you can fall away, or the fact if you worship yourself, then yeah, God's gonna. Who are you again? You worship yourself. You wouldn't even talk to my children when they came. You wouldn't even listen to my sheep, and that's what Jesus told, was it Peter, to take care of my sheep.
Yes.
You know, so they are so selfish, and it's an evil self-worshiping thing. I mean, to not even hear somebody out. I mean, like John Gischala, you know, we hear each other out, and we don't even have the same belief system. And John Gischala, that information is in your inbox right now, so hopefully you can get to that, and we'll see what happens there. This would be a first for the Red October. We'll see if it works, see if there's any glitches, and we'll see how smoothly it goes. So it boggles my mind, and I want John to tell me, what does he see outside on a different kind of you know, point of view, from a different vantage point, not even being a Christian, but being a Bible believer, being a Torah believer, being an Old Testament believer. You know, what does he see about this, and how does the same thing happen to him as far as people that he knows that maybe disagree with him about the Old Testament, that are also so-called Jews and so-called Hebrews? You know, I'd like to know what he has to say about it. And it's a mess. And I think, you know, we have a hard time accepting that it says the path is narrow, Paula.
Right.
You know, that's the reality. We have a real hard time accepting that.
Yeah, we keep running into all of these people who say we're Christians, and then we go around, you know, hanging around with the astrotheologists or the people who have made a career out of bashing the Bible as if it's nothing. And then we dare to raise our voice in at least concern and say, hey, look, I mean, if you accepted adoption as a child of God, and then you say nothing and do nothing when somebody drags his name through the mud, there's got to be some kind of red flag going up here. So that's what we keep running into, and there he is.
Should be 657 west of the Rockies, south of the 33rd parallel. John Gischala has entered the Red October, the first non-Red October community mentor that has now defected over. So now you're switching to our side, John, and we are locking the door, sir. You cannot leave. How do you like that, sir?
Good, man. What's happening, bro? It's
good. Nothing much, sir. Go ahead.
It's good to be on the show. What mic do you hear me all right? Is my mic coming in through?
You're fine.
Sound great. Sound loud and clear. Yep.
Good. So what's on?
Yeah, I saw you eating your sushi.
Yeah,
it's not sushi. It's not sushi. We're not going to be dipping the sushi in the soy sauce tonight. But, however, we are going to be talking about the fact that we are in the New Age Sodom and Gomorrah and the days of Noah, the days of Lot, and pretty soon, you know, we expect some serious changes coming from the Father and his Son up above, as you know, John, since we are on a plane of existence. From above, it's going to happen, and maybe it might even have some fire and brimstone. What do you think?
Hey, let's get the party started, shall we? Sounds fun. I'm here for the ride.
Yeah, you'd be the first one to push the red button, John. You know, that's why I don't give you launch codes.
Do I come off that way? Do I seem like I'm the first one that would?
No, I know, but you know that you're a very open person. You know, you're you're like the antithesis of me, and that's why I like you so much. You know, people that are like me, I can't stand them, John. I can't stand the sound of my own voice. And I don't know why I get along with you so well and why I cannot get along with Christians, John, because for some reason, there's a lot of things that I have in common with you, and you are a Torah-believing, practicing Hebrew Jew. I'm not even sure what the correct terminology is nowadays, John. I'll let you decide and tell me what that is, maybe live right now. And when I talk to these Christians, I get kicked out of Hangouts left and right, still like we're back in the old dungeon room talking to atheists back in the caveman days.
Yeah, me and you have come pretty far, man. How long have we been doing this? 6 years now?
At least 4 or 5. At least 5.
Okay, 5. Okay. back in those those atheist hangouts that we used to do, man. Woo, man. That I'm having flashbacks. No, what would I describe myself? Was that a question you asked me? What would I label myself?
Yeah. What is the terminology instead of calling? Because if I say you're a Jew, and then everybody says, "Oh my gosh," and all of a sudden flares get shot up into the air, and half the Christian community goes, "Oh my God, a Jew." So what do I? Is that the correct term?
Sure. I like to call myself a believer in God. I like to call myself a child of Abraham. I like to call myself I don't like the label Jew. I don't like the label Judaism, but because then I have to accept it all. But yeah, I'm with God. Whatever you want to call that, I'm with God.
Have you noticed, John, that the two most hated terms in the world, and I'll name them both right now, one being Jew, the other being Christian, the two most hated words on the plane of existence. Did you know that?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I try to watch videos on YouTube, and I try to do video responses to them. I type in Jew once in a while, Jewish or Judaism. Boy, I love the things I find, man. It gives me hours of entertainment. It's just amazing the type of hate that you can find on the internet, and that comes from everyone. Christians get a lot of slack. They rip each other apart. I feel bad sometimes, and they are arguing over silly stuff. Yeah, it is. It's pretty bad, man. And we have probably more, like you said, we probably have more in common than we don't have in common. So why don't we try to focus on the things that we have in common and try to promote that instead of fighting? Let's be allies.
How about this? The other day I was listening to a Christian on a Christian channel talking to Christians, and they were talking about the idea of, you remember the old debate, this is going to remove some cobwebs from some of the membrane in your head, young earth creationism versus old earth creation. Remember that term?
That's the old
and one of the guy, like, wait a minute, that argument in 2012. Yes. And this is embarrassing because, the Bible says, and this is what you and I 100% agree on. It says right there in Genesis, the evening and the morning were the first millennium. No, it said the evening and the morning were the first million. No, it says the evening and the morning were the first day, John. Now, let me ask you this. Do you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. That's the way it goes.
Wow, look at that. Amazing. You can actually get answers from this person. Unbelievable. I'm not used to getting answers from people, Paul. This is weird. I don't know what to do right now. So let me go back to what I was talking about. So they're talking about this, and one of the guys is, these are the people that debate evolution, discussions for 5 and 6 years on end and get nowhere, and then wonder why they've gotten nowhere because that's all they talk. They're talking about cartoons of like how the cells build and stuff when it's like, the Bible says it, and you're claiming you're a Christian. Why are you showing cartoons of how cell membranes work and the functionalities of like the AT3P synthase system? And, I understand if you want to talk about the flagellum motors of a cell. I'm sure you've seen these videos, where it shows how complex the micromachinery of biological organisms are, John, and how, so many creationists love to use that science, quote unquote, as evidence for a creator when you can look at a butterfly, I think, and get 10,000 times more evidence for God's wonderful creation abilities. But here's what's crazy, that these guys are all doing all this stuff, and then they start talking about, one of the guys says, but I'm really not a young earth creationist. I'm an old earth creationist because you can't determine what the book says. And I go, wait a minute. And then somebody else then agrees with them, a younger guy then agrees with them. And he says, oh yeah, you can't, that really doesn't matter anyway. And it's not a salvation issue. Well, gosh, John, let's just get rid of 95% of the Bible then. Since it's, there's only 5% salvation issue in one, or, whether it's the Old Testament, it's going to be around what? The law, right? And then if it's the New Testament, it's going to be, Jesus Christ, and of course the new law, and maybe some remnant of the law. That might be debatable, but to say because it's not a salvation issue, so God just was wasting his time apparently to these Christians. John, what do you think? I think God was just writing things down, and he was doodling to these Christians. John, do you see why I have a problem here?
Yeah, I definitely can. I can definitely see it because it's very sad that they say that because God didn't. What the way I look at it from my perspective, I tell you how I believe it is that God didn't waste not even a single letter of His word. You know, the word of God is absolutely 100% usable. Every ounce of it, every letter, every space, everything of the Bible is usable. To say that only this matters and only that matters and not this, and take this away, we can lose this and add this, and then we could do this with, whatever. It's very sad because God gave us, not every book is from God and not everything is from God, but this particular book, we do know the Holy Word, the Scriptures, is of God, literally. And so we have to take that, if you believe that to be the fact, then we have to take it as such, and we have to acknowledge that. And anything else is you made your point, I think, pretty well.
Right. How about now? Here's what's really crazy. I'm listening to these people. I'm really trying to hold on and not change the channel, as we all, I have a very short, attention span. John, I get so bored so fast, and I'm just trying to hear these people out. The guy goes, I think the guy hosting goes, and I'll just say his name starts with a T. I'm not really sure if I want to say their names yet. But I don't know. We might later. And the guy says, it doesn't really say in the Bible. It doesn't really say, he says. Yeah, I mean, so what Bible do you think they're reading? I mean, I don't know, because even I think the bad versions, which I think there are some versions that kind of maybe lose some things. Like, I think that's what Satan would do. If Satan was real, John, I think he would try to pervert and try to twist and change as much of the Bible as possible. But the fact of the matter is that he could not change the main word, and we'll go into that later. But they're making claims that are literally written in black and white in the first page. Or the first pages saying it doesn't really say. A kid can open it up to, a 5-year-old child that's just learning how to read could spell out the letters and go, oh, look, in the first week, God made everything, and he even said it was good. So they're claiming that actually, for millions of years, or at least I don't know, I'm not really sure what their religious beliefs are, John, but they're claiming that for literally millennia, things were living and dying as well? Or do they think everything was just not dying? Because they also have to realize it says that Adam brought death into the world. So could you imagine a world of things that didn't die, of populating the world for millions of years? You wouldn't have enough room to move. If God had a creation of living things for 100 million years and nothing ever died until Adam, you would be, let's say, a package of sardines would be a lot more roomy.
You're on point once again, Pillbox. I could be sit here like I just say yes, sir. I'm like your yes, master. I don't know what they had to.
These are the Christians. These are the Christians that are supposed to be on my team, John. These are supposed to be representing the New Testament, the fact that God came down here in the flesh because we're all not good enough and we need to be saved. And these people are saying that God actually just doodles for the most part in the Bible. And these are supposed to be my brothers and sisters.
Yeah, I don't think it's for them then. If the Bible's too difficult to accept, if you can't accept that God, created everything, you know what I'm saying, in a particular order, in a particular sequence, in 6 days, seventh day he rested, and it was good, as you say. If you can't accept the premise of creation and one God and miracles and all this stuff, and this is what happens, and it's probably not for you, or at least they need work, Pillbox. I mean, I would say, I guess they need work in what they believe or and such, or maybe it's not for them at all. Maybe they should move on.
I think they like the attention, though, and I think that there's more behind this than more than meets the eye, and I fear that there are far less Christians and far less, real truthers out there as a whole. I don't, lack of terminology, than what they're claiming they are. And the fact that they hide from the real fundamentalist Bible believers, and the fact that they're, usually just going over the same thing over and over again, and they're so lukewarm on so many topics, except for this one. We'll accept creation. God created everything, but all the other stuff, it's up in the air, and I just don't buy it. And I think it's ridiculous, and I think it's cowardice, and I think it's actually irresponsible. And the other fact, and what's even more important, is that they can't answer for anything. That means when a 12-year-old kid comes up to you and asks you a question, you have to say, I don't know. Unless you want to really cross that line and say something stupid and tell them that, the first week of creation was actually, 7 million years. And if, Jesus Christ says, if you lead one of my children astray, or one of my little ones, then you're better off tying a millstone around your neck and casting it into the depths of the sea, John. And they don't care though, because I think they love the attention. I think they love the fact that they're going on the internet, in front of a crowd to do this debate, which I'm not really a debater anyway. I think we used to have conversations. I don't understand the debate format idea when the Bible also says that, hey, there's really no point in debating, especially if it says debaters in one of the lists of really bad things. I believe in telling the truth, John, but I just think it's much worse than what I can imagine, because I don't know, because I think there's so many fake people all around us. And what have they accomplished in 5 years? Like, what have we seen happen? Like, who's getting their mind changed from the idea who's stopped believing they came from Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, the magical mystery tour monkey that was 3 feet tall, and they found her hip bone, 4 miles down the road, 2 weeks before the guy was going to lose his funding. If you're already gullible enough to believe that, and you want to stretch your imagination, your religious belief system to think that some guy who was about to lose his funding in 1979, John, for finding evidence for evolution, a week before he loses his funding, he finds the greatest find in evolution, and these people believe that, and now you want to argue with them with cartoons. I'm going to show you cartoons, John, of how cells replicate, and that's going to prove God. Who is buying it? Who's being changed? Where are these people that are going, oh, wow, I just watched Christians show cartoons of, cells under the microscope and things like that of what we think they do, and now I totally believe the Bible. What do you think, John?
For me, I'm a practical person, Pillbox. It's going to take more than cartoons to change my mind. I always found that fascinating that, they don't have actual evidence. They only have artist renditions of what they actually believe. If you don't really have anything to back up what you really believe, then is it really even a belief at that point? Is it really anything? Is it just imagination? I mean, I can draw a card. I can take some crayons and scribble on a piece of white paper and show you what I believe in things. I mean, if you want me to.
Can you first draw a fish, then a salamander right after it, and then a turtle, and then a bird, and then an internet hero on the internet after that, and then I think you'll have somebody convinced.
Yeah, I don't get it, man. Now they're teaching us that the beautiful chicken that I had for dinner was a T-Rex a couple of thousand years ago.
That was really disgusting. That is what's so bad about that is that they're targeting it's child abuse. Let's just call it what it is. They're targeting children to think that large reptiles magically turned into birds and had their entire gene pools completely reversed and changed in a million different ways because it would have died if it did. So it kept dying, John. So now it's a bird. And if you don't think that's child abuse, there is something called a lake of fire that will await you. That has got to be one of the, and that's what they did to me. That's why I get so passionate about that topic, John, about the dragons in the Bible, which you know of since you know Job. When God is discussing these animals to Job, the Leviathan and the Behemoth, he's talking about these large reptiles. And so when now they say, oh, by the way, these large reptiles actually never existed, the Bible's completely wrong. Oh, but they magically turned into birds. That's child abuse. It's that simple, period. End of story. Add a dot if you need it. But that's what this is going on. This is a mass hysteria in Western culture, especially in America, North America, the 50 states. Call it what it is. We are in the Sodom of Gomorrah that I could have never imagined. Like if God doesn't stop this soon, he's going to have to apologize to Sodom and Gomorrah.
I never really thought about that before, about it being child abuse. That's actually a really good point. I mean, definitely, this is like targeted towards children. I remember going through the history of natural, what's it called, the Natural Museum of History or whatever it is in the city, New York. And then you had the other place where the bones are, and they target them. They get you to believe this stuff. They take you to it. They tell you all this filth, this nonsense, and then they manipulate you constantly back and forth throughout your developing years. And
right, that's where they plant the first seeds.
Yeah, now you know what? I have to ponder on that. Yeah, looking back on that, yeah, I definitely feel like it's kind of messed up. Actually, it's kind of messed up they do that.
And now the world has allowed it. The Western culture, especially, completely accepts it. The Western culture accepts all of the satanic devices that we've been force fed, and they make it so that it's cartoonish first. They start you off real young. They start you off with here, put your baby that weighs 5 pounds in this dinosaur costume, and then by the time he or she is 6 years old, we can start telling them that those dinosaurs turn into birds, and that she and he actually turn into a human from a monkey, and that's how this really works. That's what it's all about. It's all about combining it all, because if you can convince somebody, John, that large reptiles magically turn into birds, then what is really a stretch of thinking that I can come from a monkey? Is that really crazy now? No,
you're right. Absolutely.
Right. So it is all it is absolutely the worst form of indoctrination ever. And that's what the system is. It's never been worse. Now, look what they've exposed people to, especially the youth. And I've talked about this with the Red October crew before, about seeing these people in stores, seeing children have iPhones when they're 4 years old, 5 years old, learning how to use that. What happens when mommy and daddy aren't around and the kid gets a hold of that and starts typing in and going to link to link to link, and all of a sudden, look what you're looking at now, and your 5-year-old kid has your phone and you're not. Could you imagine what kids are getting access to now? And they do it so that parents don't have to be parents anymore. That way, the parents get to stay on their iPhone longer, so they buy their children an iPhone. It can't get much worse than this, John, unless they want to start gluing the iPhones like on Star Trek to their heads.
We definitely need more parenting, and I think we definitely need more guidance, and I definitely think that homeschooling is a viable alternative to public schooling, or if you can afford it, for those certain few private schooling. Definitely, you need to really closely monitor what is being fed to your child, and it's definitely something that it's definitely it's just so important. I can't stress that enough, and you probably agree with that, and of course everyone else on the panel. And man, I know people that have homeschooled their kids. I know personally that people that done it, and there's nothing that their outcome of the children are just as smart, even smarter. I mean, I know kids that are just brilliant, and they never went to public school, never, not even a day, and it's a good, viable alternative. Definitely something people should look into. Definitely something to. And if not, if you have to go the public school route, definitely monitor what the homework your kids are getting. Be a part of the parent-teacher conferences. Keep up in touch. Do what you have to do. Very important.
Right, and since you brought up public school, I have to mention that every single thing they've done, especially in the last 50 to 100 years, was designed to manipulate, to literally destroy the minds of humanity. So it was up. They even started a preschool. Okay, first grade wasn't early enough. Let's have kindergarten. No, kindergarten's not early enough. Parents want to do more things these days. There's more parties to go to. Now let's have preschool. Oh, that wasn't early enough. Let's have babysitters. When you go to the babysitter, guess what you do? You watch TV. Guess what your parents did? Guess what my parents did to me when I was a really young kid? They had me watch TV. Guess what they were doing in the 60s? Watching TV. Ever since the 50s, the powers that be realized that the most genius thing was that they found out a way to put a brainwashing device, the very first one of its kind, besides the radio, into everybody's home. And not only would they be willing to do it, they would pay for it. And that was what the television initially was. Well, we've magnified that, and that has evolved, if you will, to what we have today as the smart devices and the phones and the internet access that is constantly everywhere now, as probably 25 million Americans right now are scrolling through Facebook on the internet right now as they look for ways to feel better about their worthless existence. And that's how sad it is. It couldn't get any worse, John. And I just think that this was a long time coming. The seeds that Satan planted, were a long time ago when it came to this mind manipulation, when it came to this satanic psyop. And here we are, 2018. A lot of people didn't think we'd get this far, get through all this. But it really can't get much worse until they start then legalizing things that I don't even want to say right now, as we're having a good conversation and a good light right now. 719 west of the Rockies, south of the 33rd parallel. The captain of this ship, Knowledge Scavenger, Paula, do you have any questions for John Gischala?
I don't think I have any questions, really. I pretty much agree with everything he's saying. It's the same repeating problems that we've seen for a long time now, where people just, when you've covered a bunch of different bases in the last 10 minutes or so, but homeschooling, yeah, I mean, I homeschooled my kids in the early grades. They had no problems with shifting over to charter school that opened up nearby. And it's still, even the best, as charter schools are free, by the way. We're not rich people that, go to private schools, but even though they have higher standards and generally a better social environment than the average public school, they're still government indoctrination centers. And you have to tell them, like John was saying, you have to tell your kids how to deal with that, because you wind up saying, look, you got to tell them what they want to hear. You don't have to believe it. The other kids are going to believe different things, going to believe what they're told. You might get, ostracized or whatever, and just try to get along, because sooner or later you got to do that, even if but the thing is to give them at least enough foundation where they can deal with it. And sometimes, we think the average Christian will say, no, I don't need to homeschool at all, because they're going to be witnesses. And I'm like, you're putting a tremendous amount of pressure on a kid to be a witness when they're still forming, and there's so much peer pressure against them. The adults wouldn't put up with that. And so they do need a good foundation. And then, other topics, as far as earlier on, you guys were talking about people not respecting the Bible. And, we were talking about that before John came on too. And that's the essence of it, is because if people think that the Bible is from God, and then they say, well, God didn't really mean what he said, and they reinterpret everything, ignore the context, ignore the genre, ignore the topic, the writer, the language, and all those factors, and just make up what they want, then what's the point? I keep asking people for years, if you're going to allegorize the whole Bible like that, like with the creation week and so forth, then why bother? I mean, make up a story like all the other religions, because, what does evening and morning mean? Evening and morning day 1, evening and morning day 2. And like you've brought out before too, that, the sun wasn't made right away on the first day. So what was the earth revolving around? People don't think about those things, and they don't think about evolution. You got into that too, where like flowers and bees have to co-evolve perfectly for millions of years without fail. And it just stretches credulity to the breaking point. I mean, they believe in more miracles and blind faith than any of us do. And so it's the whole gamut of a perfect storm of falsehood and poor reasoning skills and laziness on a lot of people's part. But what really concerns us here at this channel is the Christian problem, the fifth column within our gates, because they don't respect the Bible. They don't think about how inconsistent it is, for example, to say that God made the earth, but we evolved from fish. Those two things are pretty incompatible. And a lot of other things are too, like the footstool that's really a beach ball and things like that. It's like, do you respect this writing as from God, or don't you? And if you don't, then why are you calling yourself a believer in God, a Christian, a follower of Jesus, or whatever? You can't do that and be any kind of consistent. It just doesn't fit. And what we run into on all these situations, whether it's the atheists or the Christians who just want to get along, and the gospel is the last thing they'll ever talk about with other people because somehow it's embarrassing. It's like you read those verses at the front, at the start of Jesus saying, whoever's ashamed of me, I'll be ashamed of them. Well, what is it but being ashamed if people say, well, I won't, I'll keep my faith from others. I'll keep the faith, but I'll keep it to myself and not share it because I might offend somebody. Well, Jesus said, I came to offend, I came to divide, I came to, separate families over truth, because that's what truth does. And so what we run into when in the title about, Christians being afraid of the Bible, they apparently are, because they don't believe it, or they want to twist it, or they get their interpretations from people who have no respect for it. And then they wonder, somebody like us comes along. It's like happened the other day. It's happened for years, where I'll go into a supposed Christian venue of some sort. Back in the day, it was, message boards and whatnot. And then you just disagree very politely, very cordially with people and say, well, I think it says this, and here's some verses to back it up. And then they shove you out the door, and you hear the knives hitting the door as it shuts, and then you hear them muttering about satanic attacks, as if to disagree with their little pet side issue is an attack from Satan. They don't know, they don't recognize that Satan doesn't walk in the front door with a pitchfork and go, hey, I'm evil. That Satan is right there in the room with them going, oh, those Bible thumpers, you just got to get rid of them. They're trolls, And so the homeschool thing really ties into this, because Christians are not being homeschooled in Christianity. They're not being told why what they believe is reasonable and why it makes sense and why it's different from the other religions and why bother to be one, and it's just a terrible sin of omission, if you ask me, that the churches in general have done such a poor job of training Christians who don't know what the basis of their faith is and who don't value the Bible and are left to drift. And then they wonder why people leave churches. It's just, it's all tied together, and we need to get that, we've tried. It gets frustrating and you want to quit because the Christians just don't care. And you can't make them care. I don't know what to do about it.
Yeah, I'll just say this real quick. The web of deception of this world is so intertwined and so massive. It's like you went through a garage, a 2-car garage, and took off all the cobwebs and shoved them into a sock. And that's what we're living in now. And that's why you have these so-called Christians are worried about that sock of cobwebs of lies and deceit, because their feelings are in there, because they have friends that are tied to those things. They have, I have this one atheist friend, and I don't want to seem stupid. Flat Earth seems so stupid. Yeah. So, yeah, I better just say that's ridiculous and let's hide from that. Yeah. And I don't know the age of the Earth. Yeah, I understand. Yeah, it could be really old. I just don't believe in evolution, so that they can stay friends with the secular world, with the world of Satan. So they can basically stay friends with a satanic belief system. And here we are realizing that we're separate from that, but it doesn't get any clearer that we are surrounded by the victims of these crimes, and they don't want to wake up because it hurts their feelings. They are worried about their feelings. They're worried about their friendships and their relationships with scoffers. And I have a couple atheist friends too, one in particular, green shirt man, but make no mistake about it. I tell him how it is, and he needs to understand the truth. And if he didn't want to accept me, and if he wants to take his, stupid belief system and not talk to me anymore, oh, well, I'd have to say bye to him. But I've known him for 15 years. Nothing would stop me from telling the truth to anybody. And God was so gracious to me, Paula and John, that he got rid of my satanic family, and now I don't have to deal with any of them anymore. So, God bless us. Yeah, that was a good, you probably had to block that troll. Kind of a little obnoxious. There's a special shout out to the chat real quick. Victoria, the sergeant herself, keeping it real. Let me say who else. New gentleman, what was the name? Rick. John Loves Jesus. I see you again. Let me see this guy. There he is. Rick Resonator. Look at that guy. And Wayne Reck was in the building. Wayne Reck is another special character. Wayne, you know what, sir? I like you, sir. I need to have you on here as well one of these days, maybe in the near future. And a car guy. A brother from another mother. So yeah, today, ladies and gentlemen, on the Red October, 728 west of the Rockies, south of the 33rd parallel, we have John Gischala He has a YouTube channel. John Gischala, why don't you tell us about your YouTube channel? Tell us about what you do and how you got here.
Oh boy, man, that's a big tall order. I guess I can keep it short. You know, my YouTube channel is basically um, I like to learn a little bit about what I believe in my faith, and I try to do weekly Torah studies. And so most of my videos on my channel are basically looking and diving into that weekly parsha. Parsha meaning portion. Like each week, there's a different portion of the Torah I read. And so I study that. That's supposed to be what it's about. And sometimes I vlog and talk about news. And how do I get here? How did I get here? Oh boy, man, that's oof. It took quite a while to get to where I am, man. It's been a long process to find God, and you know, for a while, unfortunately, I was a sort of a deist. You know, I sort of believed in God, but didn't really believe in him personally. You know, one of these people. Well, he's there, but he's you know, playing tennis on Neptune. You know, he's not really interested in what we do. Doesn't really care about us. And then one day I realized that God cared about me more than anyone else in my ever in my life. And it was profound. It was a beautiful day. And I thank God that he opened my heart to him. And yeah, and I'm really appreciative of it, and I thank God for everything he has done in my life, and that he takes care of me, and that he somehow finds a way to do what he does to make sure I'm fed and clothed, and I have shelter, and that we're not going a million miles an hour on a wet ball rocket hurling through outer space with things crashing into us, that we're actually stationary, and that we're safe and sound, and that God actually provides all things and does all things and makes all things, and we're here to stay, and thank God for that.
Well, well said, sir. Yes, and since you mentioned it, and Paula did earlier, we've been leading up to this topic, of course, which is the flat Earth conundrum, which was a great disappointment for some of us, such as Paula and myself, because so many people in the flat Earth awakening, John, are, you know, I guess for lack of a better term, retarded idiots. And I'm trying to be nice. That's the reality, though, is that they love to worship themselves. But what we don't see a lot of, we see a little bit of a Christian movement, and then we see the hardcores here, the ones that absolutely know that not only is the flat Earth true, the whole Bible is true, and they're not ashamed to know that, you know, from front to back, Genesis to Revelation, as Christians, that we know that, you know, Jesus Christ, you know, is as our Savior. There's only one way to the Father, and I appreciate that small Red October crew. There's just not many of them, John. But how did you? Because we don't see a lot of Torah believing Hebrew gentlemen such as yourself. We don't see a lot of, you know, for lack of a better term, to say the word, you know, Jewish movement in the flat Earth. How did you come to the flat Earth, and what do you see other? How do you see other people? How do you see the Torah believing Hebrew movement in the flat Earth, and what are your thoughts on all that? If you can put it all in one.
Oof. Gotta narrow. Give me one at a time. You asked me two questions.
All right. So how about the? Let's do this. Let's do this first. How about this? When did you first hear about flat Earth?
Oh boy, that's a good question. You know, I guess all my life I sort of instinctually understood that everything was level. You know what I'm saying? But of course, growing up, you know, you always see the pictures of the planet, and or quote unquote pictures of the planet. Really, they're artist renditions of the planet. Um, and of course, we're told that all the time. And I guess sort of on the outset, I sort of accepted this, unfortunately. But at the same time, I've never really understood it. You know, it was always something that didn't really make any sense. Um, and I don't promote myself as a flat earther. I don't like, that's not like something a label that I call myself. Very few people even know that I am. You know, my good friend Rancam, our good friend Rancam, knows personally, you know, that. And I just sort of, you know, if you read the Torah and you read the Tanakh, the Hebrew Bible, it makes it pretty clear that it's stationary, it's not moving, it's on pillars. He hangs the stars in the sky, in the heavens. But I can't really give you the particular moment it hit me. It just, yeah, I got you. As soon as someone says to me, as soon as Pillbox, I'm a flat earther, I believe the earth is flat. I was like, yeah, man, awesome. You remember that, man. That was like a couple of years ago. I remember that transformation.
Yeah, I remember talking to you about it, and you never once tried to counteract anything. You were like, oh, okay. And that's pretty much like, you never said, no, it's not, or what are you talking about? My dad worked on ships, and he was in the Navy, and he saw the ball. You never said anything retarded. You didn't go a space monkey on me, zombies, invasion of the body snatchers, foaming at the mouth like some of these Christians do to me. And you were like, oh, well, okay, yeah, and you never even batted an eye at it. Yeah, so I wasn't sure, because that's the thing. Also, that's what myself and Paula are kind of on the same exact page, and a lot of us in Red October, as we are hardcore, God first people, obviously Christians, obviously Jesus Christ, but we're pretty much the same way. We don't call ourselves flat earthers. I think that we believe. I might be speaking for too many people, but if they disagree with me in the chat, they will let me know, as my crew has a very open mouth, and I don't tell them to shut it. That I will say that we believe it's a very fundamental, basic piece of knowledge that God gave us a long time ago, that we were basically stolen of, and that it should have never been stolen of. And it's a very fundamental, basic thing that every single creature also knows, and probably even the trees know it. And it's really not that big of a deal, John. The only reason it became a big deal is because they made us believe we're in a magical cartoon monkey world for the past 75 years in the satanic cesspool of Western society. So that's why it is a big deal, because it turns out that everything they've ever told us now is a lie. And God bless those people that are waking up to it and aren't reading the Bible yet. But if they don't, it's going to be all for nothing, John, because the flat earth cannot save you. The flat earth is a 1-year-old baby that can't even say a word knows the earth is flat, John. And you're dang right. It's kind of like, hey, why would I call myself a flat earther? I don't either. I mean, am I a Dodge Ramist? John, I drive a Dodge Ram. I've been driving one for 15 years, a lot longer than I've been, known the earth is flat. I'm not a Dodge Ramist. I'm a Bible-believing fundamental Christian. You know what I mean? You can call me a psychopathic Bible thumper, but that's the truth that I think we're waking up to. And people love that term. They love the high, John. If you noticed, and God bless you for not doing the things that, Paula and I did, because Paula and I and many of these other Christians, and Victoria, the sergeant herself in the chat, can tell you, John, that we delve headfirst into this flat earth movement because it is a 100% biblical relevance, because God knew the entire world was going to be deceived. That's why he told us 25 times in Job, who stretched the line over the foundations of the earth? It's like a seal pressed in clay. By the way, I also stretched the heavens. Genius. I didn't wrap the heavens around. Dum-dum. And that's what God has to tell us over and over and over again. Just like you said, he hung the stars. The earth is on foundations. It's fixed. The waters are shut. I mean, it's on and on and on. So it is 100% biblical, not because it was a big deal 5,000 years ago, John. Everybody knew it then too, but because God knew 6,000 years ago, this entire world was going to be so insane, so destroyed mentally and spiritually, that they would think they are magical monkeys on a wobbling rocket ball. And it really shouldn't be that big of a deal, but I'm still getting kicked out of Hangouts for it. So there must be a purpose for it. So I still use the term because it does shock some people, John. It's one of the tools that we'll use once in a while. Not that I recommend doing it. It's not for everybody. And I only use it when I have to, when I want to stop somebody in their tracks and shoot them right between the eyes, and it's not something that you can bring up at certain occasions sometimes, even with, not that it's a big deal for me. I'll bring it up anywhere, but at certain places you go, maybe with certain other family members, if you're married and you know that you have a split family and then maybe they're a different belief system, you might not be able to bring it up on the dinner table unless you want to get food thrown at you, So it's a wonderful 2-word combo to hit somebody between the eyes with, but it shouldn't be the foundation of somebody's only, belief system. That's all they care about. And see what happened, John, and I apologize for the diatribe, but what these people did was, and you could ask the Red October crew, is that they got so high off this flat earth that they just wanted to keep the crack party going. So then they jumped on, and you can ask Paula, she'll verify, they jumped on every single other thing on the internet to keep the high going. So then of course, the Satanists came out with all these scams like the Mandela trees, the no forest on the flat earth, ridiculous psychosis of giant rock creatures and cat tooth mountains. And it's so insane now, John. They're saying that all the formations of the earth now, if you're a flat earther, you'll have to believe this, that all the formations are just giant beings from millions of years ago. And that's what the internet has turned into, a giant crack party, kind of like Sodom and Gomorrah, but with more crack. And that's why we literally had to separate ourselves from the flat earth pseudo-intellectual movement, because they're just as stupid as the atheists. And sometimes they're even worse, John. That's how disturbing it is. Sometimes it's so weird and so psychotic. I get treated better by the atheists because at least they try to put a knife in my chest. If you go to these other truth movements, they'll put the knife in your back. And that's what I have a problem with. I have no problem with somebody wanting to tangle with me and taking me on face to face. But these people in the truth movement, the pseudo truth movement, John, that you haven't gone into, that you've saved yourself and ignored, God bless you for it, are a bunch of literal psychopathic trolls that literally came to a truth, woke up, and decided to hate the Bible for it because they've been using the Catholic Church to teach the heliocentric model. So of course they tie the satanic doctrines to the Bible, John, and they're in a heap of trouble because the flat earth isn't going to save them. And that's all I had to say about that. Sorry for the diatribe.
No, wonderfully said, man. Hey, keep on rocking. I like what you have to say. I surround myself around like-minded people. To answer your other part of the question, I kind of get what you were saying before. Now, I surround myself with like-minded people. I think a lot of people that I hang out with and talk to on a daily basis in my real life, especially the synagogue that I go to, my temple. We believe in creationism. We believe in, a literal 6 days, that God created the world in 6 days, and that, it's pretty much a scientific fact that evolution is nonsense. I mean, that's pretty much clear, and that's good. I think we all have an obligation to surround ourselves with like-minded folks, and it's just, unfortunately, once in a while you do try to have to reach out, because you know what, if you do have a little bit of light and you want to share it, right? I if you really truly believe that you have the truth, and you definitely believe that you want to share it, I mean, why not? So, but that should come first, having a good, group to start with, good friends, this crew. I really love the show. I tune in, love the show. I love Flat Out Erected with Ran. I love Rose. Like, that's number one. You got to surround yourself with like-minded folks, support them, do whatever you can for them. And then once from there, spread out, try to bring other people in. And if they don't want to come in, well, you know what? Not everyone got on the ark. Matter of fact, no one got on the ark other than, the ones that God put there. So, that it is what it is. So, consider ourselves lucky, I guess. Consider ourselves lucky that we're on the Red October. And where we're heading today? Where's our destination tonight?
Well, it's course 420, but yeah, you're right, and that's what the new arc is. That's why we named it, and we did this all by accident, John. And like I mentioned at the beginning of this hangout, I say south of the 33rd parallel quite often. And I was saying that months ago before I even knew what I was saying. Why I was saying that, turns out somebody very special about 2,000 years ago was born south of the 33rd parallel. I'll just put it in those terms. And of course, as Christians, we believe that obviously the only thing that can save people that are willing to be saved is the blood of Jesus Christ, because humanity is not going to be saved. I don't know if they know this, John, but humanity eventually will no longer exist. It is going bye-bye. Just like this earth is going to go bye-bye eventually. There's going to be a new heaven and a new earth. And there was this thing, the movie Red October came out many years ago. It's very funny because today's my father's birthday, John. I guess I'll go into a little bit about this again. And he was a baby boomer. He was into the war movies. So in 1990, when the movie Red October came out, Father Pillbox took me to the movies with him to watch the movie Red October 1990. I was 8 years old. And there was not a single other human being in the theater. It was me and my father, and we watched the Red October. I could barely understand it. I was 8 years old, and I probably didn't even like it that much then. And that meant something, and it's so weird. And then years later, and all these things have happened, and a huge awakening. Fast forward to 2018, 2017, actually. When I had met Paula and we started, getting acquainted and understanding that we were in serious times, and that, it doesn't seem like people are who they say they are. And we got to start taking people's masks off, for lack of a better term, John. And it turned out there's a lot of demonically possessed fake Christians out there. And as Jesus Christ warned us, many will come in his name. See, that's why there's a Catholic Church that rules the world. They use that, they satanically, of course, have destroyed the minds of people using that name, Jesus Christ. Well, so I just, thought of a name one day to have a hangout because, everybody blocked MG42 Pillbox. And so I named it Red October. I probably shouldn't make this story too long. And a few months later, I realized, wow, I guess, to me, obviously, Jesus Christ is the second ark. The only way to be saved now on this plane of existence, John, is by the Son of God. And I thought, wow, it's the blood of Jesus Christ, okay? And then in the movie, the ship that cuts off the Red October to save it is called the City of Angels. And I thought, oh, that's weird. And then there's a mast, and as you see, the mast is a cross. And I thought, what? And to me, it was like almost like a spiritual thing, like God had selected that. It's kind of like in a term, like I don't make any decisions. Like when we came up with the name Blood Always Finds Its Level, I wasn't talking about the blood of Jesus Christ at the time either. And then a few weeks later, it dawned on me, I go, wait a minute, blood always finds its level. Wow, I guess the blood of Jesus Christ is going to find out if you are going to be saved or not. So all these things came together, from the name to the image to the title to that movie, and then and it's just so many coincidences. And then finding out that Jesus Christ is born south of the 33rd parallel, and a lot of crazy little coincidences that just came up, John. Not that it's a big deal to other people, but I didn't make any of these decisions, and Paula and I never planned on doing any of this. It was the evil that was trying to destroy us that made us design this hangout for Christians that were tired of being deceived, knowing that they'd have a final safe haven, a new ark, if you will, the Red October. And that's when we realized blood always finds its level. And it's just a weird story. That's how we got here. We've only been doing this 3.5, 4 months, John, and you've seen most of it. And, we don't know where we're going to go, but we almost never make decisions. We wait to be attacked. But lately, we absolutely wiped the floor with this cesspool of scoffers and fake pseudo-intellectuals that they're so scared of us now. And like I called out somebody last week, a YouTuber who has 150,000 subscribers, gets 20,000 views a day because they were attacking Christians. Anyway, I'm not going to hear anything from them because people are deathly afraid of this group, John. That's one reason that I know, like, it's just too easy. And, I kind of feel that Paula and I are kind of being guided to lay down a foundation so that we can say, at least we tried, John. At least we wanted to tell people the truth. We said there's not going to be any more BS. We cut out all the fat, no more nonsense. It's all out the window. Not a single drop of stupidity is allowed through these doors. And that's why it's basically, it's like a symbol of the new arc of the modern times. And that's what's so crazy that you mentioned that. And like I said, Paula and I did not decide any of it. We had a group of 5 to 8 people that we used to hang with. And for the most part, we lost all of them. And they were more interested in being friends with the people attacking us than being friends with the people telling the truth, which were us. Because Paula and I had that foundation. We were standing by the Bible, and, Victoria saw what was going on. And many others did. There's many other people have paid attention to the Red October Chronicles of the past, season that we went through. And it's been insane, bro, because literally, and that's why I call it the end of the internet, because it almost feels like we figured it out. They're all deceived. The path is narrow, and there's only one way to learn in this world, John, and it's in that book. And that's it. These people looking for their highs can't learn anymore, and the high is wearing off. So now they've just turned to their crack addictions again and hating on Christians. And that's all they do is hate on Christians, John. They absolutely cannot stand that name. And I hate to say it again, blood has found its level. And here we are, John. And I guess it's just very ironic because you being a Torah believer and not a Christian, we're able to understand these things, I guess, in a different way. And you know, I'm working on you, bro. And I hope one day to obviously manipulate you enough to convince you. But the reality is that we are in desperate times. You do know that. And the information has been greatly increased. There's really not a lot for us to do anymore as for where to go. Like, where am I going to go now on the internet, Paula, to learn something now? Like, where do we go from here? I mean, I've been forced to figure it out all by myself. And people go, oh, well, you're high and mighty. I go, then why did I have to do all this? Why did I have to figure this out? Why did I have to be told by Victoria and these other people and by Paula? You know, Paula, you know, she doesn't say this too often, but I think she spent about 3 decades deciphering the Bible, you know, in the Greek translation specifically, and going through the, you know, the New Testament specifically, and deciphering all these, you know, deceptions that we've been lied to about the New Testament. And she's personally done it herself. So God sent her to me for a reason, John. You know, I didn't know it 2 years ago when I met this lady, John, that she was going to change my life and show me actually in the New Testament, in the Bible, actually women aren't just supposed to remain silent. They're actually supposed to preach the gospel. You know, so it's all a deception. They've lied about Jesus. They've lied about that name. They've lied about the New Testament. They've lied about every single thing they've ever told us. And that's why I can't go anymore. There's nowhere for me to go anymore. Like every door's been shut on me now. I try to go to the Christian hangouts. I get the door slammed in my face, unless there's a few exceptions out there. And the Red October crew knows who they are. You know, Franco Stagno knows and such. But it's so rare now. I can't learn though. It's like, if I want to learn, John, I just have to go back to the Bible.
That's where I would start with, man. I mean, uncensored, unapologetic. You know, that the Torah, the Bible tells you exactly the way it is. You know what I mean? It's not ear tickling. You ever heard that expression before? People like ear tickling. Why do you think people like Joel Osteen are really big and popular? What does he do? He ear tickles. He tickles your ear. You know, I know people that are Jews that oh, you know, I really like Joel Osteen, and yeah, you know, you dive in and you try to figure out why. Oh, you know, he's just so, you know, pedantic, and he's so, you know, glib, you know. Oh yeah, pretty much. You know, it's not, you know. You know, just go to the Bible, man, and that's, you never go wrong. You never go wrong with God. That's what I would say.
What say you, Captain? You still there? How late is it over there?
It is almost 11, so I'm good for probably another half hour, 45 minutes, so no problem.
Very good, very good. Thank you. So you know, we've had to swallow this red pill, Paula. You know, we've lost friends, and I'm not just saying a couple. I'm saying handfuls. And we've been stabbed in the back. And I just, like I told John, I go, you know, John, thank God he didn't waste his time in the flat earth movement. You know, he saved so many things. You know, there's a totally different page that he ignored, that he just ripped out of a book and threw it away, that he avoided. And it could be a very good thing for him. You know, unfortunately, you know, we had to learn some of these things the hard way. But I mean, as far as the internet's concerned, you know, going back to the Christians being so deathly afraid, either you have people over here, you got clowns to the left, jokers to the right, and you just don't know where's there to go anymore. Where am I supposed to learn? I still have half the Christian community thinks women are supposed to be quiet because apparently Jesus Christ teaches women to shut up, even though he teaches them. I guess they're not supposed to say anything. You know, I just don't understand. You can't go anywhere without finding a massive deception of people that have no idea what they're talking about.
Yeah, we have had so much of that. I mean, not just that issue, but any issue like you were saying about losing friends. We got to the point where we decided to just count the number of people that we didn't lose. It was much shorter list, and it all has to do with, you know, the reason we can get along with people like John here is because we ask for very little. We only ask for people to be rational and to be cordial, to, you know, to know what's important to get upset about and what isn't. And that's the thing, is if we get upset when people disparage the word of God and drag the name of Jesus through the mud, and Christians who are supposed to honor those just act like they're dead when somebody does those things, and they should be really incensed and they're not, and they get mad at us if we are. And it's just exactly what the Bible says about, Christians having the fragrance of God, that if to some people who are on the road to life, that we are the aroma of life to them, and other people we're the stench of death. And you can tell what kind of person you're talking to by how they react to you. Do they hold their nose and just gag, or are they going, let me get closer to this? And what we found is that most of the people, it seems, claiming to be Christians are holding their nose and gagging when we come by and saying, yeah, I believe the Bible is the word of God. I believe that, we can take Genesis literally. I believe that, there's layers of context that have to be considered. You can't just write it all off as parables and allegories. I mean, that just seems rational to us. And that's all we ask for anymore, is who has a consistent standard of that they use to tell truth from false or real from fake. And can they be nice about it? Can they be rational and calm about it, and only get upset when it really counts? When your relationship is being, with God is being ravaged, for lack of a better word, because this is how you tell whether the relationship even exists. We talk about, because the Bible does, about the fact that God offers adoption as his children. And you don't take that and then go, it doesn't matter, these adoption papers were just a joke or an allegory, and I don't care if my adoptive brothers and sisters are being abused in the street. What kind of a relationship is that? And that's what Christianity is supposed to be all about. And we keep Jesus in the back room like we're ashamed of him, which is why, what I get upset about with people who hang around with these scoffers. Like you've quoted Psalm 1:1 all the time and gotten, banned for it, about hanging around with scoffers. That's exactly the tie-in to those verses that you read out of Mark. I think it was Mark 1, or was it Luke? I forget, where Jesus said, if you're ashamed of me, I'm going to be ashamed of you. And that's how you show shame of Jesus, is when you people drag his name through the mud and you don't even react. And what kind of Christians are those? And why is it that there's only so few of us here in this hangout that even seem to care and even have a problem with it? And you asked about places to go. There aren't any. And it's really, it makes a vacuum after you spent that many years with people and you thought they were being rational and agreeable. And then all of a sudden they just decided, like somebody flipped a switch and said, no more Jesus talk, no more Bible talk. We're going to write Jesus' name on a bottle of whiskey and mock him as a baby. And we're going to decide that the Bible is just something the Catholic Church made up. As another thing I was thinking when you guys talking about, ball or flat earth with the Catholic Church. First, they said that the Catholic Church was against science and holding mankind back because they wanted to keep the earth flat. And now they're saying that Christians are the ones who want to keep it a ball. They can't make up their mind. That's the lack of consistency and rationality. And that is just, not much to ask. Like I said, we're just asking people to be consistent and pick a standard and use it and treat others the way you want them to treat you. Like Jesus said, the golden rule, and if you want people to stop being negative, why are you so negative to us? That never crosses their mind. And it's just gotten to be such a dry desert. It's just a wasteland out there. And it's, I go looking every day for Christian hangouts, and you go to one and they just spit venom at you because, oh, you don't worship the King James. You're not into the idolized version, or you don't, you believe that Jesus is coming before the tribulation. There's something wrong with you. Get out of here. Or you believe the earth is flat, like you were, running into, you just said. It's a wasteland. And this channel is pretty much the only place I can go and not be shown the door, and not hear the knives hitting the door as it shuts. it's really pathetic and depressing, actually.
The truth hurts sometimes. John, I got to ask you real quick. And I think we kind of elaborated on this earlier, but not too much. Do you see, it's just to switch gears a little bit, do you see any like groups of like people like, I guess, I don't know what the terminology is, people that just believe the Torah, like we were having the same, issue, people that believe the Hebrew book, that are Old Testament believers that are like, yeah, the earth's flat. Like, is there a thing going on there?
I can't say that there is. Off the top of my head, I can't think of anyone that I know of that's like real on fire, passionate about the flat Earth. That's where you're going with. I mean,
well, no, but that knows it. That would just say, oh yeah, the Earth's flat. If you like, you would be able to like, oh yeah, the Earth's flat. Like they could just honestly answer it that way. Like what about Idol Smasher? Did you ever talk to him about it?
Idol Smasher, I think, is a baller. I think he's a baller.
All right, I could tell. Fair enough. I pretty much knew that, but I just had to, ask you. So I thought since we're on the topic, I thought I'd ask you that. So yeah, go ahead.
No, he's very passionate about evolution. I mean, he's very much against it. One time he blew up on when someone said the Noah's flood wasn't a worldwide flood, and boy, woof, that person walked into the wrong hangout that evening, saying the flood never happened. Boy, oh boy. He's passionate. He's passionate about the Bible, but he's stuck on the baller topic. It is what it is,
And he's a victim. He is a victim of the satanic world, of the indoctrination, of the cartoons that we were all raised with, of that pseudo-intellectualism of these people growing up with you. Oh, and they've already been saying it for you. This is something I heard 10 years ago. Oh yeah, people were so stupid. They used to think the earth was flat. Oh yeah, those idiots. That was something I remember even in grade school that they have ingrained into us. Not only did they tell us that, magically dinosaurs turned into birds, but they were telling you in the same classroom. I remember first grade, John, when they said that people used to believe the earth was flat because they were really foolish back, and I remember that in a general sense, that was the idea, that people used to be really primitive. So they believed the earth is flat. And then they show you, here's your globe, your magical ball in space, and this is where you really live. I mean, that is grade 1 indoctrination, and some people can't shake out the cobwebs.
Bless their heart. Give them time. It just doesn't come naturally for everyone. Like you say, if it's really, it hits you at first grade, they're dumping it on you, and it's gonna take a little bit of time to deprogram. You know what I mean? Like you brought up earlier, they gave you a television. I mean, you ever thought about, you ever break that down? Television programming. Tele as an information, vision as in what you see in programming. I mean, they're literally in the name of what they call it. Right,
they admit it to you, yes.
so yeah, this is propaganda. This is what it is. They have fun, enjoy, grab popcorn, buy a Coke, $20. Thank you. It takes time. Some people walk, some people some people crawl, and some people run. We're obviously a little bit senior members here, us three here, and the beautiful people watching the live broadcast. Obviously we got our running shoes on, and we saying have a nice life to everyone else, and we're doing great. But they're picking up. You got to give them time. Pillbox, there's hope. Right, if a sorry sack of crap like myself, there was hope in it. What I mean? That's how the Lord works miracles.
Well, that's the thing, is that it's easier to believe truth when you don't worship yourself. You see, you don't worship. I think you go a little bit too far with the negativity, and I don't believe you 1 second. But the reality is that, Paul and I, we don't worship ourselves. We love truth probably more than we love ourselves. And that's the difference between someone who's going to go, I guess I shouldn't go to the people that teach me that I come from monkeys to ask them for the information of what I'm living on, because I probably shouldn't trust the same people that tell me I come from pond scum. Yeah. So right quick, I'm going to do a special shout out. 803 west of the Rockies, south of the 33rd parallel. This is Blood Always Finds its level. Special guest tonight, John Gischala, has graced us with his presence. The captain of the ship, of course, Knowledge Scavenger Paula. We're going to get to the chat right quick to see if there's any questions, because I haven't been looking correctly. I need to go back there and see if there's anything I can answer. Usually there's not, because you got to realize, John, our chats have it all figured out. They don't have to ask me anything. But time is short, people. Today was my father's 73rd birthday. He's no longer with us. You see, he died about a decade ago. And his time has run out. And eventually, your time is going to run out. And I know he's not in heaven right now. He might be in a waiting room, I hope. I don't think he's in hell. And I think there's more deceptions when it comes to understanding what happens after we die. The reality is you have no idea what's happening to you unless you have absolutely dedicated your life to God. So please do something about it. It's not too late. And blood always finds its level. So I'm going to go back to the chat. I'll let you guys talk right quick, and let's see who we have there. Moment of silence.
Fairly good crowd tonight. For us, our 18 watching. I mean, most people get like 1,800 watching, but what are they watching?
The Super Bowl. Listen, Paula, the Super Bowl has 150 million viewers. You see, the dumber you get, the higher the views, which would mean, that our people are just that good. Sean G in the building. What is going on? Okay. Sean G says, Pillbox, thank you so much for that message in the back. I appreciate you, Sean, for asking me for personal information. Sean, I have been there, and I know you're going through a tough time right now, Sean, with personal things, and I will absolutely leave you at that unless you want to relinquish some of your personal issues that you're going with, Sean, as a Christian community that we have, and of course, with my Torah-believing brother right here, John Gischala. We will pray for you, Sean G. Make no mistake about it. This is the only real group in the world, because this is truth. Wayne Reck, what's going on with you? Driving home, but still listening. Thank you very much, Wayne Reck, a trooper right there, a soldier of God. Wayne Reck is. Victoria, the sergeant herself, still in the building, saying safe travels to Wayne. Rick Resonator, sir, I haven't met you yet. Maybe we will soon. John is a great guest. Been wanting to hear from him. He is. I've known this guy for 5 years, and this is a long time coming. But again, God decides these things, Paul and myself, and I don't even think John really rush into things, and we kind of let everything fall on its own. Gordzilla in the building. A hard line to walk, more than you might know, Wayne, saying from Wayne, says it's a fine line when respecting people's beliefs and explaining the deceptions surrounding everyone. Yes, the deceptions never end. And like I've been saying, Christians are greatly deceived. So-called Bible-believing Christians will shut the door on you when you're trying to say Job 38, Job 37, and it's happened to me over and over again. Then you got the other people that tell me that it doesn't say in Genesis how old the earth is. I mean, every single member of this ship would absolutely just laugh if you told them that. It doesn't say how long it took for everything to come into creation. It says a week. It's that simple. Rick was saying somebody's blasphemous. No doubt. I wonder who it was. Let's see. I'm looking. Going backwards on the chat. Excuse me, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry about that. John loves Jesus. I hate it when people mock God and call him a liar. Amen to you, John loves Jesus. That's why Jesus loves you, sir. Wayne Rat, Gordzilla. Unfortunately, righteous anger is frowned upon by the vast majority of fully automated sheep. Oh, yeah, they're out of their minds, Gore. Yeah, and some of us should be very angry. Wayne Rex said, very new age. Dude had 10 years under his belt and thought he might step up. To Paula. I've seen that a couple times. Yeah. Oh boy. Yeah. They learned the hard way.
I was shaking.
They'll learn one way or another. Make no mistake about it. They will learn. Trust me on that.
Yeah, I was bad. I got off the ship last night, and I think it was last night. It might have been the night before. The time just blurs now. Yeah,
somebody let you out of the somebody let the captain out of the kitchen. Victoria must have slipped you the key underneath the door.
Watching. Yeah, nobody was watching me, and I wandered off, and the potatoes were running, and I got in the chat and said, "Wow, somebody with PhD in their name about theology and philosophy or something," and trying to wow me with how the Bible is all a pack of lies, and he has 10 years of study. I was just so scared, Pillbox.
Talk about a noob. He opened the wrong door. Thanks for playing. Next, another vegetable gets cooked in the oven. Let's see. Max Attack said bye a while ago. Max Attack at 7:50 p.m. about 20 minutes ago. Thank you, sir. We will see you again, Max, and send me a message on the back chat. Gentleman right there, Max Attack, is somebody I converted a couple years ago, and he's been on a rampage trying to wake people up to the biblical truth of the flat earth, which is what matters. Without the Bible, your flat earth knowledge is not knowledge. You are, in fact, full of it. In fact, you are now worshiping yourself, and it's complete garbage. That's what I was going to tell John as well earlier. And you know how I always get sidetracked by my own, my two brain cells were getting dry. John, somebody knowing the earth is flat and rejecting the Bible is in much greater danger than the space monkey believer who thinks he came from virgin rocks because of a lightning bolt. Do you know why, John? Because they can at least try to write up a resume to God. The people that are now admitting the Bible is true and are going to ignore it, they're going to go to hell with like Shinola and Vaseline down a tube to the lake of fire, John, at Mach 20,000. I hate to admit this, but the Steve Cray-Crays and the psychopathic space monkeys, they have a whole plethora of excuses to why they thought it was wrong. You know what I'm saying? Let that, sink in, wrap that around your head. These people that have come to the flat earth, it could be a death sentence to you if you do not accept the Bible coming to knowledge, because that means you are without excuse. If I'm wrong, let me know in the chat. Godzilla, let's see. John loves Jesus. Wisdom comes from the fear of God. Amen. Oh, just so you know, ladies and gentlemen, Red October and John, I don't know if you know this, once in a while we have been visited by police officers in the area just north of Mexico, and sometimes it happens, and I might have to talk to an officer or two. I do see some light shining at me right now because I like to get away from the neighborhood so that I can make as much noise as I possibly can get away with. John Gischala, thank you very much, sir. Let's see. Coffee House in the building still, sir. I tell you, my cat literally ate your name off the paper. That's not a lie. Apollo will not allow me to lie as the executive officer of the Red October. Victoria, what is going on? Why are you saying hi, people? Do we have that many people? Sean G still in the building. Rick Resonator, I'm going to let it go. I don't see any questions yet. Again, it's a smart crew. They don't need to be told what to do. They don't have a lot of questions because that's how they got here. This is the end of the internet.
Right on,
and that's
man.
when you talk, John. Go ahead.
You run a tight ship, and I really appreciate you having me on and coming by. And well said. I thought the hangout was pretty cool, man. It's good to be in a peaceful car. Nice hangout. Usually, I do sometimes wander into the wrong, open the wrong door. Oops. I guess.
No, no, John, that can't be true. I never walked into that hangout with Benny and Bulldog the other month. I was not there watching. Nope.
Yeah, that's a lovely crowd that I have. We deal with.
Yeah, probably moving on. Yeah, it's 8:11. Go ahead.
But as you were just to expand upon what you say, you can't go wrong with what the Bible says. Is there anything else that is true other than the Word of God? I mean, how people who find the flat Earth or whatever sort of knowledge that they think they have, but they somehow find it without God, or without the Word of God, I question that. Is it real? Do they? That's kind of, it makes me scratch my head. It all comes from God. How can you say it otherwise? Go ahead. I hear you.
You just gave me this amazing idea. I have to thank you for this. It was because you were eating sushi with the soy sauce, because I was thinking of food. I thought immediately food has to come from a cook, just like a creation has to come from a creator. And I thought, wow, that's what the flat earth is. It's a bunch of cooks in the kitchen arguing about the shape of the kitchen table, and they're supposed to be cooking something. You see, but instead of cooking something and actually accomplishing something in life, John, they argue about the flatness of the countertop. And actually, it could be slightly concaved, you see, because when you turn this light on, and if I roll the glass down the edge of the counter, the bottom of it starts to disappear because it's a curve. That's what it's like. It's like dealing with a room full of cooks that have all this work to do, but instead of doing it, they're arguing about the shape of the countertop. That's what the flat earth is. You can't make sushi if you're arguing about the shape of the countertop, John. And that's what this is. It's like I'm telling you, a 1-year-old baby walking knows the earth is flat. The kid's going to get it. And once you figure it out, that's not where you stop, John. That's what their problem was. They said, oh, I like being here. I'm just going to sit down now and sit on the pool table. And instead of playing pool, we're going to argue about the shape of it. And that's like football players, again, arguing about the shape of the football field. Basketball, same thing. A bunch of basketball players, you would pay basketball players millions of dollars to talk about the shape of the court for the rest of their lives. That's literally what it's like. It's so pointless. It's annoying. And then they'll ignore the blueprints for the shape of the court, by the way. They'll ignore the Bible of this world. And you can compare it up and down, left and right. It's the psychosis. Again, what I was getting to is that the flat earth can be a death sentence, John. Just because, what happened in the Garden of Eden? Did Satan deceive Adam and Eve with something that was stupid and horrible? No, he deceived Adam and Eve with something that was so amazing and so special. I don't even understand it, and God didn't want them to do it and understand it. And so Satan uses bad things, right? But he also can use very good things to deceive, and that's what is going on here. It is a satanic cesspool, this flat plane of existence now, and the flat earth movement, John. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is, and we read King Solomon's words, in Ecclesiastes, it says that he had all the women he ever wanted. He drank until he got drunk. He did everything. He accumulated wealth, and gave everything. According to him, he gave everything his heart desired. That's what it says. He gave everything his heart desired. Accumulated more wealth than any other man. He was all this, read books upon books upon books for knowledge, and there was no end, according to him. There's no end to it. And then and then he came to the realization. If anyone who ever read Ecclesiastes, one of my favorite books of the Bible, he says, no, it's the Lord. The real answer is the Lord, and that's what made him happy. He did all these things thinking that he could be so wise in and of himself, reading books just to accumulate knowledge, drinking wine just to be happy. But really, that's not real happiness, and that's not real truth. It all comes from God, knowing what the Lord knows, and getting that revelation of what is true. That's real truth. That's real knowledge. Not this fake, whatever man-made BS shtick that they tell you about. It's pretty much what it is, what it comes down to.
Yeah, I believe we are in the inception of Revelation, John. I think that the world is unfolding as it says, as in the days of Noah shall be the second coming. I think it's all happening now, like I'm talking about earlier with the cell phones, with people giving their children cell phones and iPads and whatnot so that they can continue to look at their cell phones and their smartphones on iPads. It's a zombie culture now. They used to talk about this in the science fiction movies, back when I would watch TV as a kid. I remember the old Twilight Zone and the old movies, and even the stupid Star Trek would talk about when generations would turn into zombies because of electronics and things like that, because of technology. People would literally shut down and they would literally lose their humanity. When I was a teacher, I still am a teacher, but I do it on a much smaller scale now. I teach music, John. But when I was teaching music in a larger scale, people would bring their kids to me, and I'd have them just sit in the room because I'd like the parents to see me teaching their children so that they know, hey, this is what I'm doing. I need you to, that way I don't have to explain, an hour lesson to the parents after I get done teaching the kid for an hour. But most of the time, most of these parents, unfortunately, John, as I'm teaching their children music, they're not paying attention to their children, John. You know where I'm going with this. They're looking at their phones. They're looking at their iPhones as their children, as you're paying, a music instructor to teach your children, but you're not going to even pay attention to what's going on. It's just a disturbing thing. Everywhere I look, it's the same thing in society. And of course, it's hard to tell the parents, John, like this is when I was telling you about earlier, like there's sometimes when you kind of have to hold back on some of the things. I had a hard time telling them, can you stop looking at your phone and pay attention to me teaching your kid music? How do you do that? How do I tell a parent, can you please put your cell phone down and pay attention to what your kid's doing right now so that maybe you can understand it a little bit better and help him progress as a musician? I could hardly ever do it. Once in a while, I would come up with some slick way to say, yeah, just watch your kid and we'll see if, that way, blah, blah. And I just, it was so difficult. And if I have to beg people to watch their kids during a music lesson, what's going on in private? What's going on at their houses? It's just people staring at screens and devices. That's what America has turned into, John. I just don't know how much worse it's going to get. It's frightening. I mean, I guarantee half the car accidents now today are caused, especially by teenagers, this, and adults up to the age of 35 are probably caused by staring at devices while driving. Where is it going to stop? When's it going to end, John?
I honestly, I don't know the answer to that. I don't even know what to even. I don't even know where to even.
Well, we hired you. Come on, I need the answers. I hired you for this. I need you to give me the dang answers. All right, come on. Well, that's the reality. So, I mean, what solution could there be? Let's if there could be a solution, let's just get extreme. And in the chat too, can the chat help us? What could solve those problems? Go.
You mean having technology?
I mean, yeah, it's a dehumanized society, and humans are already bad enough. Now they're worse than human beings. Now they're robot humans, Paula. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, anything that's a distraction. I mean, I taught trumpet back in the 80s, and even then the kids, this is before anybody had personal devices of any sort, and they were already distracted. And I think it's, it could be, you could talk about it being TV or whatever, definitely TV. But even by then, people are distracted. Kids are distracted by all the activities, and this is by design too. You mentioned about what the school systems are designed to do. And if you read any of the Humanist Manifesto or anything like that, John Dewey, all those people, their purpose in designing the school system was specifically to take kids away from their parents, have them basically raised by their peers in the state, and that the theistic Sunday schools meeting once a week for an hour or two couldn't compete. And the reason was that they kept the kids in school so long and gave them homework so that they wouldn't have time to get influence from someplace else, and they would be, they have their childhoods robbed from them, basically, because they didn't care, as they put it in their own words, they didn't care about teaching Johnny how to read and write. It was how to make him a good worker bee and a drone of the state, essentially. And so even in the 80s, I was seeing that these kids that were, I could tell they had not practiced a minute since last week, and their parents were paying for them to have lessons. And I'm like, look, eventually I was like to the parents, look, they're not practicing. There's really no point in bringing them here if they're not going to work on it themselves. You have to love what you're doing or you're not going to do it. You're just going through the motions, and the distractions of the school system by itself, even without TV, was doing that. And so anything that complicates life and fills every minute is going to be a problem. And now it's just so much orders of magnitude worse, with not only wall-to-wall school, cradle-to-grave media, and whether it's in your hand or not, it's just bound to happen. I mean, if we think back to Genesis, where in the near perfect environment of Adam and Eve, they still chose to rebel against God and ruin everything. They couldn't leave it well enough alone. They couldn't leave alone that one thing. And it's just a human, sentient being choice to always want what's best for us at the moment, and not what somebody else, a parent figure, says or anything like that, especially God. And this is what we're seeing. That's the birth of all the false religions. And, we just watched Thor the other day, Ragnarok. I keep wanting to say Gurignac, which is from Galaxy Quest, but that's neither here nor there. The thing is about portals and teaching people, all people, not just kids, but teaching people that you can teleport between universes, which is exactly what quantum physics and Big Bang is all about. It's the same religious view where the gods mankind is being prepped for the gods to return, the fallen angels. That's what Thor was. That's what all the Avengers were. You know, they're reintroducing ancient mythologies, and CERN is trying to be a portal, in my opinion, and open up those gateways that are just going to bring nothing but trouble. And they even tell you that in one of the Avengers movies. I forget which one it was, whether it was an Iron Man or what, but they're all sort of melding together now. They're bringing all these fallen angels together. And they would even show you, look, if you open this portal, bad stuff comes through. Oh, don't worry, we'll take care of it. You know, that's what we're being prepped for. But when it gets back down, this all does tie together with the distractions and with the false leading and the prepping. And this is what we saw from the beginning in the Flat Earth movement was, okay, people are believing in a creator now, but that's what Satan wanted. There's not going to be any atheists in the tribulation. They will all believe in these beings, these godlike beings. And some will still say, well, these are just evolved beings, which to me is just, moving the goalpost eternally, which doesn't answer any questions at all. It's a cop-out to have eternal regression or transpermia or whatever they want to believe where life came from. But the point is that they are prepping everybody, these sophisticated Western minds, to believe in the ancient Greek and Roman gods and the Babylonian gods and the Hindu gods and everything. Hinduism real popular. We know one Hindu practitioner who seems to think that Jesus never existed, and that everybody's a god. I think one of the recent videos that he did I think it rhymes with like toupee or something. Anyway, that everybody's the great I am. And I'm like, okay, let me see you guys make, I don't know, like a second sun in the sky or walk on water, impress me. Tell me that you are the great I am. And of course, there's been no replies, but, maybe I'm banned by now, who knows? But it's all together. It's all connected with distraction, with devices, with the state indoctrination, with the media and science, so-called, which is really a case of the emperor's new clothes, where they really are ancient Hindu, Babylonian, Gnostic, Luciferian religion, all coming together in this generation, which is, again, not an accident. This is, you said we were on the cusp of Revelation. We certainly are. And a lot of other Bible prophecy from both Testaments, Joel and Ezekiel and all those other ones, where these things are going to happen that God said, and they're going to happen literally. And people can't take that Jesus went away physically hidden by a cloud, and yet somehow he's already come back metaphorically. It's just that inconsistency and that irrationality that we just had our fill of. And so here we are, like you say, at the end of the internet, the scorched earth. And that's all. You stand and look, we had to get out of it to see that. To stand and look at flat earth and conspiracy realm in general and the whole world and go, man, it's just smoldering ruins. It is Sodom and Gomorrah. There's nothing but sulfur on the ground. It smells. It's just, there's no place to go. It's like we're in the middle of a forest fire with one of those shields over us, and the fire is just passing right over us, and we just can't have nice things. That's how bad it is.
That's when you're supposed to talk, right, John? Oh, I'm sorry. Is that my cue?
Hey, take the reins. Take the reins.
Thank you. Hand it over. Thank you. Okay, we'll scoot over. All right, ladies and gentlemen, what is going on? MG42 Pillbox is your host. Yes, that's me. 827 west of the Rockies, south of the 33rd parallel. You have reached the end of the internet. I don't know how much longer we're going to keep this ship afloat tonight. The periscope is up, the chat is lovely, and the moon is now high. Northwest we sit, 69 degrees. This beautiful March 12, 2018, my father's birthday. Again, people, wake up. Time is short. Welcome to Blood Always Finds Its Level. John Gischala, give us some good words, sir.
The good word is that you can always trust in God and always trust in His word, and that He will never forsaken you, no matter what. So no matter how deep that submarine travels, you can always come back up again. And that's the good word, I think. What do you think, Pillbox?
Yeah, man, I think there's only one truth, one way, and one life, and nobody gets to the Father but through him. And if these people don't wake up, John, they are going to be in hell on a flat lake of fire that's flat, John. A flat lake of fire, burning for eternity, and it's flat too. And they're not going to be arguing about the shape of the lake of fire. John, I can guarantee it.
You know what? You say that, but I can guarantee you those people, I bet there will be people there complaining about what the shape is.
They'll probably be arguing, is it a dry heat or is it humid? I think is what they're going to, is it humid or dry? That, and I think also, is it burning or is it frostbite? I think that would be the other discussion.
Yeah, it's so hot it like freezes you, right? Huh? Go ahead.
Right. Is it really just really cold? I have brain freeze right now. It's a magnified brain freeze, or am I in and it's a lake of fire. Oh, I'm smoldering. So yeah, because freezing, you wouldn't have the what is that, what is that, emaciation or whatever it is when something turns into smoke or something.
Reminds me of that joke about whether hell is exothermic or endothermic. You know, is it losing heat? Is it getting
Yeah, does the law of entropy have to... You see, hell's not that big of a deal, John. I could go to hell right now and walk around, talk to some people. I've been to Sheol, John, and people are going to laugh, but the Red October crew knows, and I've given my testimony at least twice. You know, Victoria can tell you. And these are these out-of-body experiences, like, they're real. And I've heard of these stories of people going to hell. I believe some of these people. And there's stories in the Bible. I mean, as you know, John, of people leaving this realm and God taking people to other places, right? I saw my dad in Sheol. That's how I know he's not in heaven. He's in the waiting room next to Beetlejuice. And I think he just took, you know, one of the numbers and said, look, hey, there's Elvis. Hopefully. I don't know all the rules. I don't know what it's going to be like after we die. I really don't have the answers at all. But there is going to be a period, I don't know if people are going to agree with me. However, I don't know if there's anybody in heaven right now. You know, I don't know if is that going to happen later? Like I do have my belief systems. I'm not going to get into that. I don't want to, there's certainly a one-sided sort of movement going on, and I'm not trying to rain on their parade, but there's a lot of things that we don't know, especially when it has to do with what happens when we die. I don't think hell's that bad, and that's why hell will get cast into the lake of fire, John. It says it right there.
My opinion, as far as what the New Testament especially says, is I believe their timing is a big issue too, because before Jesus went to the cross, there was paradise, and Abraham's side was paradise, and there was the grave, the unseen, which is what Hades means, and paradise was the good side where Abraham was, and Jesus explained this when he talked about the rich man and Lazarus, and the other side was where the bad and unrighteous dead were. And that I believe that, clues here and there throughout the New Testament tell me that when Jesus had taken his blood to the altar in heaven, that he was able to quote, take captivity captive. That is to say, I believe he emptied paradise. And then because he had made that sacrifice once for all at the temple in heaven, that people could then enter. And that believers at least go directly to the presence of God, as Paul put it, absent from the body, present with the Lord, not present with Abraham. And so, and yet they are all, I believe they are there too. The righteous dead are in heaven now. My opinion, I could be wrong, but I also believe that God is as just as necessary and as merciful as possible. And he knows each individual person, whether they had any concept of good and evil, God versus Satan and all those things. I believe that babies that, anybody who dies in a state of mind where they weren't making a rational adult's decision is going to heaven. And I also believe that some people, for whatever their experiences were so damaged that they can't make that decision. And that's why God is going to decide, it's up to him after all, where people go, and that we can't be absolutely dogmatic about people whose situation is kind of murky to us. You know, we can't be that sure. What we can be sure of is that we're tasked with spreading the gospel, and we must tell people that Jesus rose from the dead. That's what it means to be a Christian, and you're not a Christian if you don't believe that. And so that we are commanded to spread that message, because, in my opinion, you know, because the question is, well, are people better off not hearing if salvation is whether or not they reject this offer? And I'm like, well, look, there must be a reason that Jesus said, spread the gospel, tell everybody what happened. And that it has to do with what Paul explained in his letters, since he called the church a mystery or a secret that had been revealed to him, that we are adopted as children of God and given the Holy Spirit as a down payment guaranteeing our inheritance as children, that this is a unique thing that only applies to the church. So there were righteous and unrighteous dead before the church. There'll be righteous and unrighteous dead after. That's where the so-called saints or elect are, as referred to in the tribulation. Now, not every, as I'd like to say, everyone in the church is a saint, but not every saint is in the church. There will be good people not of the church in heaven. And as far as kind of murky situations where we're just not sure about somebody, they're really nice people, but they just couldn't quite take that step, I'll let God figure that out. That doesn't invalidate our faith or anything. It just means that this whole good and evil thing is a bigger thing than we can possibly grasp, and why human beings as a race are the prize in this great cosmic tug of war, cosmic chess match, as I call it, between God and Satan, because we are of immense value for whatever reason that we can't even understand. And it's such a shame that Jesus said there's so few workers for the harvest, because we have this incredible truth that we can be made right with God by adoption and not by working. And all we have to do is accept or reject. Now, there is a cost that Jesus said, whoever's going to follow me will be persecuted. We've seen that. I mean, like you said about us, you know, we gave up quite a lot to be where we are. We stand for truth, even if it costs us everything and everybody. And that's why we're here in this place, that we can't go anyplace else. And if we were trying to be popular or influential, we're doing that completely wrong, because there's, you know, we've seen what you do to get popular and influential and make some big bucks maybe along the way. But our thing about life and death right now is that our message as Christians is Jesus rose from the dead. We need to tell everybody about this so they too can be adopted as children of God, and let God worry about the iffy situations and who heard the gospel and who didn't. That's not our call to make. But what our call is to make is to say we can't accept anyone as a fellow Christian unless they believe Jesus rose from the dead and they show some respect for the Bible, because God's word don't become devalued just because they're put on paper. And this is the problem we keep coming back to on the title, is why Christians are so afraid of the Bible or so value it so lightly. They don't have convictions. They have whims. And when you have convictions, that's when you get upset, you know, when people disparage the word of God or the name of Jesus. And the problem in the Christian community is that they have no respect. And I think it's because they have no relationship. And that's what salvation is. And so we need to stress that point and keep our priorities, because, again, it's not flat earth. It's not the shape of the earth. It's the maker of the earth. And what our message is as Christians is not only who the creator is, but what he says is the make, break, pass, fail test question, which is, do you accept that Jesus rose from the dead or don't you? And the tribulation's purpose is to deal with those who didn't quite make to that point. They get one last chance. It lasts 7 years, depending on, you know, what state. I mean, a lot of people are going to die during that time, but most of those who die are going to be people who decided afterwards, after the church age ends, and God finishes the prophecies about Israel, the 70th week of Daniel. That's when everything is cleared up and all the things are finalized. And so if there are gray areas, we're not told about it, but the danger of that kind of message is that people will not, you know, they'll take time to make that decision, then they'll have to go through the tribulation. But I just think it's a tremendous opportunity that isn't forever, to be called children of God in this unique way that the church is. And that's our highest priority. And beyond that, any kind of truth is a priority. Then we have our layers of priority, and any kind of truth is what is going to divide and going to cost you friends. And so if you're getting popularity because of something, then the Bible even says, watch out, because the world loves its own. And we're not of the world. We're enemies of state because we have accepted citizenship papers in this adoption. You know, we're citizens of a new kingdom, and the world hates that. We are enemies of Satan's kingdom, and we get what we get for that. But so this is why I keep wondering about the Christian community, because they think that the world is supposed to love them. And that's been the whole problem. That's why they sit with the scoffers in violation of Psalms 1:1, is, you know, and sitting in the seat of the scornful. They think nothing of it, because I think the only conclusion I can draw is the relationship's not there. And that's what brought us together here in this little corner of YouTube, is because we just have the most basic, simple foundation, and we can't even find Christians who will agree to that. That's really sad. I don't know if I probably went way off topic, whatever I started on, but there you go.
Oh, I guess the captain says what she wants to say. Eh, John?
Absolutely. Gotta rock and roll.
I know. What are we going to do about it? Yeah. I don't know. I honestly think we went farther than what I thought, as we usually do. I try to keep the shows, short. That way we can do more of them. But, always time just kind of slips on by, even at the end of the internet, John. So I'm going to let you give us some words of wisdom, John. Then I'm probably going to give it back to the captain. And then in the next few minutes, I don't know, over the next 3 minutes to 15 to 20, depending on where we go, I'm going to also try to look back in the chat as I was checking it out, as I was trolling my own chat, and looking for any sort of questions, which of course, no, they're having a good old time there. But a couple comments I noticed, just a couple little troll comments about the shape. I mean, that's the thing, is that if you had any evidence for the Earth not being flat, we'd know about it. John, you and I, we would be talking about it. Like, man, there's this thing about, once you get up to 80,000 feet, all photography shows the Earth. Oh, no, everything's flat no matter how high you go. There'd be if there was anything at all to do with the evidence of the Earth not being flat, and I'm saying not concave, not convex, not the magical giant spaghetti noodle Earth that soundly teaches that the New Age, psychopathic internet ball earthers have now jumped on. Paula, as you've seen, there's a dry spaghetti noodle Earth movement going on. I mean, if it was anything other than flat, we'd have anything. It's real easy. Straight lines are so basic. And God likes to talk in basic fashion too. That's why Job 38, God said, who stretched the line upon the foundations. It's real simple. See, if something's not straight, your eye picks it up. You have the ability as a cognitive human being, John. I don't know if you know this, like if a guitar string isn't tight, and a guitar string, and I should know this. I'm a guitar teacher, for a couple years now, John. When a guitar string gets loose, you'll be able to tell just by looking. You'll instantaneously, your eye picks up straight lines. You see, if the human psyche and our consciousness and our line of sight, notice it's called line of sight. If we didn't have the ability, John, and this is for everybody that ever listens, to pick up something called a straight line and a curved line with our eyes, just on perception, and I'm talking about minute detail. I'm talking about, looking at a razor blade at a microscope. I'm talking about a football field. There's a reason things are straight. If the human mind didn't have that ability, we wouldn't be able to create machinery and technology and internal combustion engines and rockets and jet engines and airplanes and buses and cars and Dodge Rams. That's where the fundamental basics of all technology is based on the principles that humans can detect when something is misshapen. Like lathes are very important in machinery. Straight lines are the fundamental things of literally everything. And if there was any evidence at all of the Earth not being flat everywhere, which is really easy when you just go up higher, because a lot of these people don't know this, John, that it's still legal to fly in an airplane and go up in it and then see what the Earth looks like. You see, your eye picks up the horizon, and it's dead flat all the way around you, and it doesn't change no matter if you go higher or lower. You see, if there was curvature, you'd be able to tell. So anyway, I'm just saying, there really is no argument. This is a psychosis, John. People are still attached to their fundamental basic world belief system that they've been indoctrinated to believe in because, well, they, decided that that is more comfortable is all I can imagine, John. I don't know what it's like to hide from truth, but I'm sure there's got to be many different forms of it, just like there's no two of us that are the same, right? There's got to be 1,000 trillion ways to be wrong. And there's only one way to be right. And that means you admit you're wrong in the first place. And then you get to be right, John. Isn't that nice? See, everybody's already wrong. The people that are right are the ones who admit they're wrong. And that's how this works, John. And a lot of people just can't figure it out. I'll make no mistake about it. Blood will find its level. So yeah, the flat earth, it's a duh. When John and I, again, we talked about this 3 years ago, he didn't even bat an eye. This guy was like, yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, good point. And that was it. I mean, John and I really didn't have to go over much. It's not like I had to send you 15 videos and a slideshow and here's some photos I took, which I have to do to a lot of other people, John. You didn't ask for anything, John. You just said you pretty much just took it and put it in your suitcase and walked home. And that was it.
Baruch Hashem, it's interesting, I have pets, and they, and you do too. You don't have animals, and what's fascinating, because you can verify this, because you have animals, take care of those beautiful tortoises that are like 120 years old.
120 million years old now, actually.
Right. I forgot they had a couple of zeros. Right. Yeah, and I forgot. Sorry, I didn't get my science book volume 5.
Yeah, you gotta learn science, bro. Keep going. Yeah.
Right. The edition, the newer, version 3, because we made a couple of mistakes. We didn't.
Well, I'm sorry, but now you've gotten me off track. Now I have to interrupt you before you go on this. So if I tell you, so you're telling me, if I tell you my tortoise is 20 years old, you can take me at face value and say, okay, Pillbox says this tortoise is 20 years old. But if God tells you the tortoise is 20 years old, you can not only add a few zeros, you can add a one. If God says it, no, he doesn't know what he's talking about. But the guy that drives a Dodge Ram, who goes out in the desert once in a while, pokes around for animals, you can trust him, but you can't trust God. Is that what you're saying? These people are telling me, John?
Pretty much. But
oh my goodness, great! You can't fix this stupid. You cannot fix this stupid people. I'm sorry. This is not a good sign. You can trust me, but not God. I'm even going to admit that's not smart. Okay, please continue with your story, John.
But what's so wonderful about these animals? You could see how they can naturally know what is good for them and what's harmful for them. Like I took my cat outside. It's a house cat, but I like to get it fresh air. And it's sniffing around, and it knows that, don't eat that leaves, don't eat that off the ground, don't eat the cigarette butts. Like it instinctually knows like what's harmful, what's bad for it. And that's sort of the same thing we have if we actually listen to our voice, our consciousness that all of us have, the Holy Spirit, Ruach HaKadosh. That's why that you got me, Pillbox. That's why you're able to tell me, you know what? I believe the world is flat. That the world's flat. It's proof, guaranteed. And that's why I didn't just puke it up. That's why I didn't get violent at you. I didn't get nasty at you, because you know what? We all know intrinsically what is good and what is wrong. That's it. Animals, even the animals have it. So there's something wrong with us as human beings. Something happened along the way to take that power away from us, take that ability to have that capability to be able to discern right from wrong, good from bad. And that's what happens. I mean, we talked about it throughout this entire wonderful, what are we going on, 3 hours almost? 3 hours? 3-hour wonderful sea voyage that we talked about how we are, as human beings, are not evolving, but are actually de-evolving. We're actually becoming less human. Most people don't even have 2 brain cells to rub together between those the ears that they call the head. A brain. That's the fact. Ever since Adam, we've been slowly degrading over time, slowly devolving, And that's the fact. That's actually the real MS. That's the real truth of the matter. It is, and that we didn't actually evolve from primates, but yes, maybe Pillbox, they are primates walking around us because they.
No, there's a guy so smart in the chat. There was a guy here earlier.
Right.
He's so smart. He says that when the animals no longer have the ability to live, they die and then have babies that are stronger. I mean, that's smart.
Oof, he should be a professor at a university.
I mean, that is smart. You got that. That takes a lot of space to fill up. Yeah, that is really smart though. You got to admit, the animal was not good enough to survive. Hear me out. It died, so then it had kids that were stronger. I mean, that'll learn you right there. So that's what the society of I hate to use the word white. I am white, but just to say white Western culture, you know what I mean? Not to offend anybody, but that's where it comes from. That's where the pseudo-intellectualism, and you got Neil deGrasse Tyson on there being the Uncle Tom to help him out. It's not a race thing. It's the satanic mentality, and they think it's real. Oh yeah, the animal couldn't survive. The dodo bird died, but the other animal died too and made stronger kids. Like, they literally believe that. I'm not making this up. This is what they believe, John. So, and we're talking about an entire society of pseudo-intellectuals who call themselves the Brights, and they're atheists, and they make fun of you because you believe in a 6-day creation, and they think, the fish died, and therefore now there's really strong fish because the other ones all died. I mean, you can't fix that. That's it is nothing like I've been trying to. The one thing that I've taught people all around me, the one thing that I've preached for many years, the one thing that I know is true and it'll never change, John, is that it's never been about the evidence, ever, and it never will be. God says, I am clearly seen in this creation, his creation, period, end of story, and he is. It's that simple. And you either honest about it. It's about integrity. It's about pride. It's about getting rid of your pride. It's about humility and again, admitting you're wrong. The 5-year-old child knows that the cat is only going to make kittens, and because of that, now the other coin of the evolutionist, new age, pseudo-intellectualist germ monkey now states, John, that yes, cats only make cats, therefore evolution. You see a problem here? So apparently the cat, so what they're claiming is, John, now follow me with me, try to keep up with me on this one. What they're claiming here, John, is that there was a primordial, substance of complex chemicals, right, for billions of years, maybe, I'll give them trillion. Let's give them as much time as they need, right, for a long time. Lightning, maybe, explosions, lava, who knows? And then a cat came out of the primordial ooze, you see. You see, that's the new form of evolution. It's a new version of punctuated equilibrium, which was quoted by Stephen Jay Gould back in the 70s, I believe. Paul, correct me if I'm wrong. And that is literally what the new Brights, the Aaron Raws, the Steve McCray-Crays, the real smart, I'm smarter than everybody evolution. They're claiming this now. They won't admit to it, but that's what they're claiming when they're giving you a diatribe and they're explaining their imagination, that they literally admit that a full-fledged kitty cat, tiger, lion, panther, whatever, and then an elephant, and all these animals came out of the ooze, and then some of them just stayed in there and swam around and became immune to the poisons, and fish. So they all just they only bring forth after their kind. Paula, correct me if I'm wrong. They only bring forth, a dog always makes a dog. That's evolution. Cats always make cats. Duh, that's evolution. Evolution would never suggest anything else, Paula. We heard this now. And pine trees only make pine trees. Duh, that's evolution. So they now believe the primordial soup gave us the billions of species. Now that's, I thought that was hard to believe that they all got on a boat, John. Of course, I'm sorry to diatribe. Some of them think that we had to take the fish and the trees onto the boat. Also, that's another issue.
Sure.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. Your show.
Yeah, the thing is that they believe in the most bizarre magic, the most out there blind faith magic, because they believe that a speck existed for no reason, had no cause, always existed. And for some odd reason, without any cause and effect or anything happening, nothing going on, the speck exploded into who knows what, because this speck was the universe, but it exploded into some other greater space that they, I guess is infinite regression again. And this explosion resulted in order and complexity, just like, putting TNT under a mound of trash and getting a 747. And you just have to believe that because math, because quantum physics, because dark matter. And, frogs turn into princes. You don't even have to kiss them. That's what they believe in. And they decide that they don't have to talk about origins because evolution is only about change. And so they excuse themselves from the questions they can't answer and then decide they have all the answers and keep us on the witness stand forever. That's a big complaint of mine about how Christians do these apologetic things is we allow ourselves to be interrogated relentlessly and never hold their feet to the fire the way they do to us and make them defend what they believe because they can't do it. And that they know they can't do it. There is no defending the ridiculous things they believe. Like you said, comparing us believing that all dogs came from the dogs on the ark, from a pair of dogs on the ark, but they believe dogs came from rocks. And we're the stupid ones. So, but yeah, I don't want to keep going too long either.
Well, they've revised, like I've said, they have a new revised theory, 2018. Now, I've heard them. I don't know if this is on paper yet or been peer-reviewed, Paula, but they say that, eukaryotes only make eukaryotes, right? So then they're claiming that eukaryotes, fully developed cells, cellular, okay, with the full system, dogs making only dogs only come from dogs. That's their claim. So they're claiming that dogs came out of the primordial soup, Paula. That's their claim now. So I'll give them, okay, there's no more rocks, primordial soup, and not even a chain. There's no more lineages. It's the dogs came out of the primordial soup, and now we have wolves and basset hounds and Tibetan mastiffs. That's literally what they're claiming. Now, you'll ask them this, you'll have them reiterate it, they'll slither right around it, of course, but they're claiming it throughout their entire diatribe until all their conversations. They'll say, eukaryotes only bring forth, they love to sound smart, and then you go, okay, so you're saying that eukaryotes didn't, so like, when did it go from prokaryotes to eukaryotes, and then watch them slither away again? Like, isn't there a gap here? Or no, they'll tell you, no, prokaryotes only make prokaryotes. Okay, so single cell bacteria only makes bacteria, and that's as far as it's going to get. Oh, of course. Oh, okay. I thought there was a chain here. There's supposed to be links. They've now gone away from that, Paula. And I know this sounds insane, but this is 2 years of me intently listening to these psychopaths. Intently. And that's what they're now claiming. They're going to literally explain this to you and then say, no, you just don't understand it. Once you reach that, okay, so you're saying the elephant came out of the primordial. Oh my God, you're so stupid. Wait a minute, you've been saying this over and over again, and then they'll deny it at the very end. They'll go all the way to the finish line, and you'll be like, okay, are you ready to cross the finish line? And they'll go, no, we're starting over. Let's do this race again. And they'll do it every time.
I've seen this 100 times. People will switch sides in an argument and hope you don't notice.
It is so pathetic.
They start picking up arguments you were using against them 5 minutes ago and claiming that those were their arguments the whole time.
Right. So, John, do you know? Right. So, do you know, John, that the Bible teaches evolution now?
Oh, great.
I don't know. Do you know that, right? You know that, right? Wonderful. The Bible clearly teaches evolution. It says that they bring forth after their kind. That's what they're saying. That's what now the new way. I mean, it's that scary. I mean, you don't believe in demonic possession, maybe. I know it's very true. I'm not saying that you have to, but I know for an absolute fact, I'll put my life on it. Demonic possession is very obvious. It's not just atheists. I even seen some Christians be influenced by demonic. I mean, it's just a very, today I don't have this often, but it did happen today. So I have to bring it up. And, there was one more thing. Oh yes, don't forget to remind you to remind me to remind you to tell me about dragging you kicking and screaming into the Black conscious community, John, where they make fun of the Torah all day and Christians, so we can unite together and be hated as one. They hate Jews and Christians over there, and you got to come with me next time I go over to Brother Sanchez's. And Paula loves it over there, and Victoria and her go over there with their chocolate boxes and watch the satanic shindig go down. But yeah, so there we are. The Bible is now an evolution book as well, John. So we've come full circle.
Well, me, Pillbox, I'm still waiting for the transitional fossils. They still haven't shown me any besides the cartoon renditions. And Pillbox, you've seen the videos. I showed that pond scum that I have a bucket of in my garage. I think you've seen the video a couple of years ago. It still hasn't made anything. It's there. I got a bunch of chemicals in a bucket with some pond scum there, and I even tried zapping it with some electricity. I even tried, saying those couple of magic words, abracadabra, but it still hasn't evolved.
Now, I don't know why you made me lose my train of thought like that, John. That was your fault. So I was talking about the spiritual thing that happened today. I saw it, not through me, because some people are like rocks. Like some people, I have a hard head, so the spirits can't hurt me, but they will hurt. I can see them affect other people around me. My wife is very sensitive. She's had to quit jobs because she sees it happen to other people. See, I can't tell. You see, I'm like a rock. It just bounces right off of me. It doesn't bother me. I can listen to that filth on the radio, or, I will tell you what does give me the heebie-jeebies. Commercials. If I go to somebody's house as a friend and they turn on the TV, especially if it's like some ridiculous sports game and a commercial comes on, I do start to get a little bit of anxiety. But I saw it today, and we are fighting against principalities and high places. These are spiritual beings, John. This is not the flesh. When you're talking to people that believes the cat is going to come out of your bucket in your garage if you just keep shocking it enough with the garage door opener switch, that's not a human being talking to you. That is not, I refuse to believe it, Paula. I refuse to believe a human being can be that psychotic. That is the spiritual world. They love the feeling that they've been given to feel so smart. I'm an intellectual. I have a piece of paper on my wall. My teacher patted me on the head because I stayed inside because I couldn't play sports, and I did whatever it is that makes them feel better about themselves. It's a possession. It is possession. They are possessed because they let the spirits into their lives. And that's what it is. It's an infection. And it's just like an infestation of cockroaches, John. When you see one, you know there are many more.
They're definitely possessed, and I absolutely believe with that as a fact that these people are, man. I'm with you on 100%. I've experienced it firsthand.
Yeah, like the guy that came from the Bulldog. Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. Everybody had to stare at my face this entire show. I forgot to tell Paula to take my picture down after the intro. I apologize for making everybody suffer with that, because I do think that the community, or at least this crew, would probably rather see our icons change as we talk. I just assume, because that's what I would want to say. So I apologize for that. Yeah, we are in strange times, John. It's not going to get any better. It's going to have to get worse.
No homo, but you're one good looking, man. I wouldn't keep it up, man. I'd rather see it. I'd rather see.
Oh, you're too kind, too kind. Oh boy. Oh, blood always finds its love you can't beat. There's the ship right there. Set sail into history with God watching in the background, and of course the army of the cavalry of Jesus Christ right there in the middle. Look at that artwork. Paula made that picture, mind you, John. Paula did that.
Very nice. Very good. I like that.
I just scavenged. I do that for bits and pieces and slammed them together and said, okay, how's that?
That's talent there.
That's good. Yeah.
That's Benny the Gangster level talent of...
Yeah, that's all. I learned programming and studied the Bible. Everything I do is mostly, I did compulsory education. I got a couple of degrees, but everything else has been just, here's something that might be useful. I'll put it on my shelf and bring it out someday and find a way to connect it to something else. And that's why they chose the name I did, because it seems to work for me. I just pick up stuff and throw it together.
Yeah, for the record, John, if you ever have any questions about the Bible, and I'm talking about New Testament and Old Testament, obviously, especially New Testament, and I think you should have some questions about it, because it needs to be studied, because the Bible the New Testament can't be written by man, John. I'm putting my life in that right now. That book is a literal sort of mirror, in a way, an image, like I don't even know how to describe it, like an X-ray, sort of like a flash off the Old Testament reversed in a different manner, and it's just amazing. And the more I read, the more I realize that a man could not have written that part of the Bible, just like I know a man could not have come up with the Old Testament, John. Anybody out there who ever has a question about the Bible, and we're not always going to agree on everything, but you can't come to me unless it's about something like, is a day a day? I'm going to say yes, okay? But if it involves New or Old Testament information regarding the Bible, Knowledge Scavenger is probably the #1 source on the flat plane of existence. And don't let the fact of the matter that she's a woman discourage you. The reality is Jesus Christ had women learn the Bible for a reason and to speak up about it, such as the woman at the well who was directed by Jesus Christ to go and tell some things. So that's the reality, folks. If you have any questions about the Bible, please subscribe to Knowledge Scavenger. You will probably learn something even if you didn't count on it.
Why, thank you very kindly, Captain. That was I always get embarrassed when people do that. But.
Oh, I'm not going to be promoted just yet. Still the executive officer. Let's see, John. We're probably going to go below Periscope depth right quick, John. So give us some last words, then I'm going to give it to the captain. Then we're sinking it.
Oh boy, last words. Thank you for putting me on the spot there. I'm not really good with last words, but I guess the only thing I could really say is that if God was able to make man out of taking the dirt from, yes, the four corners of the earth, and make a man out of him, Adam, and that's where Adam comes from, the dust of the four corners of the earth, and he breathed into him a living soul. And if the Lord's able to do that and able to take pond scum like Pillbox and a monkey ape like myself and breathe into us a living soul. Sorry, I don't really know too much about you, Scavenger. I'm guessing you're like Mary Poppins, practically perfect in every way.
That's how she got. That's how she got the captain position. Yeah,
that's how she. Exactly. Perfection. That's
not that we agree on everything, but when you got to keep your mouth shut. You know what I mean? You got to. Yeah, you can't. No talking back. So
that's what we expect here. No, I'm just joking. No, it's proof. The proof that there is a Lord and there's a God, and like I said, we believe in more than we disagree with. So it's great that we can come here and focus on the things that we do believe in, and highlight those things and expand upon them and come together and as I believe, children of Abraham. And so if that's the case, we all call Abraham father. I think a lot of people miss out on that, especially from the Jewish perspective, from the Christian perspective. We're Abrahamic religions, that's where it stems from. And we have to get back to that. We get back to the foundations, and that's beautiful that we were able to come here. Thank you for letting me on the show. I apologize if I wasn't like myself. I'm new here. I didn't know exactly how to act and what to exactly say. It's a different crowd than usual, so I try to be a good little boy. Maybe next time we'll open up the zoo and let the animals out or something. Pillbox, like the 12 Monkeys movie. But for now, thank you for coming. Thank you for letting me on, and I appreciate the audience. Thank you for having me. Thank you for not throwing tomatoes at my little icon box, and appreciate it. If anyone has anything to say to me, I guess I can answer it real quick. And thanks. Thank you so much, Pillbox. Thank you, Scavenger.
Hey, awesome job, John. I appreciate you big time, brother, and well said, and absolutely right about Abraham. It says it right there in the New Testament as well, I believe. Correct, Paula?
Yeah, I mean, just a quick thing on the Abrahamic religions, is just Judaism, Christianity, because Islam is not an Abrahamic religion. There was no Islam until about 600 some AD, and all they can claim is ancestry. They can't claim Abrahamic religion. So yeah, I mean, I guess all I'd sign off with, I am tired. It's past my bedtime, but some things are worth staying up for. And I really appreciate you guys, all the kind words and in the chat as well, because it's been a kind of a bad couple of months and very discouraging. We've lost all our friends. We've had physical things. My mom had a stroke and my son had surgery, and I had aches and pains myself, but then there's blessings too. And so mainly you guys, because it gets to point where you just sit back and go, I got 10 viewers that come to my channel and maybe 100 people have watched my videos and go, what did I do all that work for? And then you come to this place, to the Red October, and you find out why, because, we only see, I can hardly, I was just telling Pillbox, I think before we went live, that I just like to see the people once in a while, that there is somebody out there who listens now and then. And it's most of the time we get what I call it a starvation diet. When you're a Bible thumper, when you're a fundamentalist like this, and you're on the wrong side of every possible option and rejected by most, even in the Christian community, it gets discouraging. And this is where we come to get an infusion of some amino acids or something to keep us, keep skin on the bones. And it really means a lot to me. I really appreciate you guys.
Amen to that, Paula. Thank you very much. I want to give a special shout out to the crew of the Red October. They did a phenomenal job today. Thank you very much, John Gischala, for being here with us. It was a lot of fun, sir. This is the end of the internet, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us. 909 west of the Rockies, south of the 33rd parallel. This is MG42 Pillbox, your host and XO of the Red October. Again, thanking each and every one of you. Let me get a special shout out. Victoria, the Sergeant herself, Mark Bailey, Cheyenne Cat, Gordzilla, John Gischala, thank you again, Shanahania, Wayne Weck, Full Armor, Wendy Blank, John Loves Jesus, Tori Foxtrot, Echo Hotel, Maximum Destruction, Max Attack, Franco Stagno, Journey's Wake, Mark Wasson, Coffee House, 26 Vino, Outer Passion, Truth Freeze, Wint James, Molly Malone, Coffee House, thank you very much. My cat ate your name. Rand Campbell, Rose Patton, Wambra, and Moo Maple Milk, and there are many others. I'm sorry my list was eaten by my cat. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you once again for being here at the end of the internet. And we will see you next time. And please remember that there's only one way, one truth, and one life, and nobody gets to the Father but through him. Hang tight, guys. I know we're in rough times right now. Things will get better. Trust me, even if they get harder. Sometimes we need to learn different lessons for different reasons, and it has to happen. You were forged in fire. That's how you got here, for a reason. It was not a coincidence. And you have reached the end of your learning lesson now, as you're not even worried about asking those questions anymore. My crew doesn't have to ask me anymore, because you found it out with your trials and tribulations, and that's how you got here. Thank you very much, guys. This is your XO MG42 Pillbox once again, and blood always finds its level. Have a good night, guys.